Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting on this Monday, April the 3rd, 2023, at approximately 7:09 p.m. Ms. Derry, would you call the roll, please?
Icy Brown.
Here.
Let's see. Ralph Maker is absent. Terry is absent. Yeah, Roger Raymond.
Here.
And Daniel.
Here.
And Ron Powell is absent, but we do have a quorum with the addition of mayor.
Thank you very much. If everyone would please rise to begin our meeting this evening with a prayer led by Brother Trent Hampton from Calvary Temple. And he knows he has to stay after this, so no shenanigans.
You have till 8:20.
Thank you. We'll follow up with our pledge led by Lieutenant Joey here.
Lord, we love you. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for a great city of Greenwood. Thank you for elected and appointed officials, God. We thank you for citizens that are concerned about the welfare of our city. God, we thank you for all the many blessings that you've given us, for prosperity that you've poured out upon us. We acknowledge that every good and perfect gift is from you, and we thank you for that and ask you to continue. God, we ask that you would keep us safe from harm as storms and sickness comes against us. Protect our students and teachers. Protect first responders as they put others before themselves and put their life on the line every day, God. Ask that you would give direction as decisions are made for this city that impact the future generations, Lord. We ask that you would let us continue to give you glory in everything, that we be led by your Spirit, kept by your mercy, grace. God, I ask that you continue to pour out state championships on Greenwood. We thank you for all in the past. Let them continue. God, we acknowledge that they're all from you. Ask that you would let your kingdom come and your will be done in Greenwood as it's already been done in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Where did he go? Did he already leave? So I appreciate your prayer on the state championships. Maybe one for national next time too.
Yeah.
We got. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you doing that. We will move on. I would ask the council, if you have not had an opportunity to take a moment and look over the minutes for the March 6th regular council meeting, looking for an approval on those. Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a motion second.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor Kinslow.
Yes.
Roger Raymond.
Yes.
Daniel King.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not used to voting, so you'll have to call my name one time, vote me or something. Thank you. Next up, we have Jeremy Shores here from Hawkins and Weir, and we'll do a bid opening for a lighting project on the church.
Mayor, Council, appreciate the opportunity again to work with you guys. This is bids for lighting improvements from just right here behind the City Hall, wraps all the way around over into the Oaks subdivision. We have two bids tonight. The first is for Brashears Construction. There were no addendums on this project. It is accompanied by a bid bond, in the amount of 5% of the total bid. They've identified Mountain Electric as a subcontractor on the project. And they've submitted a bid of $564,500. $564,500. The second bid is from Goodwin and Goodwin. It is also accompanied by a bid borrowing amount of 5% of the bid. We have not listed any subcontractors on the project. And they have submitted a total bid price of $733,000.00. $733,000.00. We'll take these bids back, check and make sure everything was added up properly, and provide certified bid tabulations for the city to consider these two bids.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. I know this is a big project. We've been waiting a long time. Finally had to get a director in here to make it get done, so thank you, Casey, for pursuing that. Did I say that? Okay, but it's going to be really cool to get that trail that I know we've been waiting for a long time.
Mayor, what was budgeted for that?
133 times.
133 times.
No,
Is that what you said?
390.
Because it was 3 phases, and I think correct written.
So what?
It was split in 3 phases when we
3
first.
phases.
But this is the total.
390 was total or per page?
That's
No,
total.
130.
Oh, 130.
Yep. Things have gone up.
All 3 phases was budgeted this year.
Is that pre-COVID? I guess. I don't remember when we first did that, Jeremy. Do you remember on that first?
I believe it was 2019,
Yeah.
2020, something like that.
Before everything went crazy. It's kind of what we've experienced on the side. Roughly, probably.
On everything.
Everything. Okay. Thank you, sir. We are at the recognitions and acknowledgements. I did this last week, and I thought it was funny that nobody else did. I recognize most everybody, and I acknowledge you being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Can't get that getting better. I do want to recognize Thomas Asante here from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Thank you, sir. Did you ride the bike?
No, not here.
Okay.
Today.
Okay. So we appreciate you being here. Thomas always does a good job reporting. Okay, moving on to committee reports. Boys and Girls Club. Ken, you were here? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor Charlotte, Travis, council members. Just want to tell y'all from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what y'all done last year and this year so far for us. It is really, I tell people, the club's hit the lottery the last couple of years, being able to do what we have done out there for the improvements, from the sidewalks that we did last year to the lights in the gym. And this year, you see, we remodeled the bathrooms and the concession stand on the ball field, as well as we also put our own money in and remodeled the concession stand and the bathrooms in the ball field, in the gym recently also. The improvements keep coming. We have new bleachers for all the fields coming in. They should be in next week. We got $12,000 from the A&P, which we thank them a lot. We threw another $4,000 or $5,000 on our own where we could put on the big fields bleachers that are really, really nice. Can sit 50 people in them. So chain link fence around them and everything. It's going to be a great addition. We also took $10,000 out of our budget, and we have red dirt, what I like to call it, to put on the fields to really dress the place up and make it safer, less rain outs and everything. So that's what we got going on out there. Our next big project, and I'm going to bring y'all more stuff on it and everything. I've been talking to Dane Burgess with Burgess Communication and that with the ball field lights. We come down where we can do all the fields with the lights. It's going to run us about $125,000 to do it. But we're going to be splitting it up in 4 stages where we can able to get the lights. Doug, when did you put the lights out there? I mean, do you remember that far back?
100 years ago. I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
Comment.
You've been there 20?
I've been there 20 years,
So
last month.
you can go back probably early 2 years of my 10 years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, 30.
So, I mean, and we steadily just repairing them and replacing bulbs and all this. Where these bulbs that Dane puts in, these LEDs and everything, just light everything up. He just did south side and north side of baseball fields. So I'm gonna be putting something together for him and bringing it for, having a proposal to y'all, but again, I can't thank you enough. The kids at Greenwood can't thank you enough, and we really do appreciate you. So does anybody got any questions or?
I don't have a question, but I will say that 30 years ago or so, this is the gym bathroom, and all this looks amazing, by the way. Unless you were employed there or hung out there every day for a long time, you can only appreciate this stuff. But I remember going to a local business here in town and getting donated metal stalls to go in the bathroom. That's what you probably had to tear out. So
I did tear them out.
this is awesome. This looks great.
I appreciate you providing pictures.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it all. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. I did go out and look at sidewalks too. Awesome. Just get you some turf and be in business.
That'd be about 5 million. I'll have that next meeting.
Okay. All righty. SRCA, don't know, I didn't see that one report. Did we get one?
Yes.
Sure, okay. Parks Commission, I don't see Joel here. But anyway, Water Wastewater Commission, Teresa?
Forgive me for not getting the report to you guys in time. I'm kind of trying to get my feet wet here on what I need to do. Just wanted to report that the department heads and the commission have already started working on a priority list and a 5-year planning. We'll hope that out of this we'll start a committee to start working on concentrating on efforts to come up with a future water source. We are already collecting data for the rate study required under the Act 605. East Village is near completion for the city water and sewer inspections, and I understand that's going very well. Water line construction for the curb is 90% complete, according to Tim, and Greenwood's pump station design is nearing completion and will go out for bids soon. Jeremy may be able to update us a little more on that. And Tim said the large project that's now going on for them is installing 30 new meter boxes for the triplexes out east. Any questions for anybody? I'll try to answer them if I can.
You have a new commissioner?
Yes, we do. Well, that's on the agenda to introduce here. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate you. Okay. Thank you. It's my first night. Thank you. All right, moving on. Citizen forum. We do have, if you're not aware, and I think everybody is by this time, but if you wanted to speak, we have a list here assigned, and we do have 2 citizens here to speak tonight. And so how this works, if you'll step forward, give us your name and your address, and then you have 5 minutes to address the council. Each.
Each?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cindy Scott. My name is Jennifer Rowe, and we're here on behalf of the Artemis Project. We are located outside of Hackett, Arkansas, about 10 miles south. And we're just here to offer our support. We've always thought that Greenwood has done a great job being animal advocates, doing the best you can for the animals in town. We rarely have people from the Greenwood community even contact us like we do from other towns, because y'all take care of business over here. But we would like to offer our support like we have for a lot of other areas like Boonville Town, Mansfield, Hartford, Cedarville, a lot of the area towns. We help support them. Even when we can't take their animals, we place their animals on our albums for transport. We place their animals on our site for adoption. And we get a lot of animals out of those towns a lot quicker because we can network them a lot more. But we would just like to support y'all in that area if you would allow us to. So that's our main concern here, is we just want to help you guys help the animals.
And I think we welcome the help, and we always could use help. This has been an ongoing thing for several years. We've talked with this council and councils before, probably have talked about our own shelter, if you will, and that doesn't seem to be making sense, so, yeah.
I know it feels a big financial burden on the city, and I watched the last council meeting. I live in Greenwood, I've been here for 6 years. We've had great relationships with, I mean, I think there's been 6 animal control officers.
We've had a few.
Been here.
They're almost like mayors.
One mayor, but a lot of animal, and like you said, it's a tough job. We've had great working relationships with most of them to be able to network these dogs out of here. I recently not had great luck with that, and we would like to, whatever that relationship needs to happen, whether we sit down and talk about it, we would really like to help the animals. That's really our only goal. We don't need more dogs. I mean, we have enough.
We have a little over 300 right now.
You guys do?
Yes. But I will say we had over 200 leave to go to Northern Rescues last night.
And that hasn't slowed down. We
That
learned a
has
little
not
bit about
slowed
that
down.
back when I can't remember who was the animal control, it's been 3 or 4 ago. We went and talked to Alma or Van Buren about some things like what you're talking about, and it was amazing how many were being shipped out. So that's not slowed down. I don't see a wrinkle in any of that.
No, I mean, it's like emptying the ocean a thimble at a time, that, you know, we're not solving anything here. We're just trying to do the best
Manage
we
it.
can. Yeah, manage.
We're just giving these animals an opportunity.
Yeah, until our area catches up with the whole spay and neuter trend, you know.
Right.
We're just trying to help keep everything alive, keep them alive and get them homes.
Well, we'll welcome that, and we'll get together with Kyle and Danielle. We'll all sit down and have a powwow and see what we can come up with.
Sounds great.
Work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. I know you're passionate about what you do, so thank you. Okay, where are we? Right there. I'm sorry. That was 2 in 1 stone, so to speak. Don't do that. All right. Financial report, I believe, is next, Mr. Marsh.
Okay, you have your financial data sent to you via email. It should be on your tablets. I'm just going to quickly, because I'm going to be giving a lot more presentation on the financial audit as one of the agenda items. So for the city sales and use tax in March, we budgeted 4.5% increase or growth. Our cumulative growth so far in 3 months is 7.2 in the city sales and use tax. On the county side, 8.5 was our budgeted growth. We had cumulative growth of, our cumulative is 7.2 on the city sales and use tax above our budget. We ended the month, or the 3-month period at 11.7, so we're 7.2% over. County sales tax, we ended up 7.5% growth for the 3 months. We're budgeting 8.5, so we're 1% down so far, but that is picking, those numbers are picking up. Advertising and promotion, 6% was our budget. You remember last month we were negative. However, there was a lot of catch-up in the month of March. A lot of, because it was a 28-day month, caught a lot of people by surprise, and those payments or remittances for the collections of A&P didn't come in until very early in the month of March. So we're right at cumulative growth of 14.17 for advertising and promotion. We're 8.17 above our budget. As far as our cash flow is concerned, net decrease in cash for the month of March was $526,000. For the year, we're $466,000 decrease in cash. Our current fund balance of all funds is $16.3 million. Our percentage decrease in our fund balance is 2.7. We talked about a little bit of reasoning why. I'll explain that when we get to the capital expense line item. Net income was a negative $453,267. A large percentage of that net not income, net loss for the month happened via the capital expense line. Just to give you some comparison, so far this year we've spent $1 million already in the first 3 months of our $7.7 million budget. That's 13.03% spent so far. Just as a comparison, last March for the first 3 months, we only spent $233,000, which was 3.9% of our budget. So this year, people did not delay. Right after that budget was approved, they went out and spent the money ahead of the collection. So normally you want that to be spent as you're generating the revenue, but they built up such a surplus in their actual fund balances that the money was there for them to go get it. And they realized that if you wait 2 or 3 more months while the revenue stream comes in, the cost of the item that they're trying to purchase is continuing to go up. So it was to our advantage to go ahead and get it while the bidding was good, and that's what led to that, what appears to be a problematic net decrease in our income. However, it really isn't, because what's generating that is it's ahead of the revenue stream that comes in. So the good news is that the capital expenditures, the tangible items that you can see, feel, and actually operate, that money is what was spent to buy those assets. Most of those are already purchased now. So the only thing we have left, bulk of the expense, is capital improvement projects. One of the items that I do want to point out to you, kind of apropos, because we were just talking about animal control, I was going through each of the budgets for the month, and as I go through each one for the first 3 months, I noticed that we only have one department that has what I'm considering to be somewhat of an adverse trend, which may, because we don't have a line item budget, we have a total budget number that they cannot exceed. They're on a path to exceed that budget right now, and it is animal control. And it has to do with the housing costs that we've already talked about at our last meeting. And we'll go into more depth in this Monday, so you can make sure you have it on your calendars. Monday, April 10th is the first quarterly financial budget review, 6 p.m. right here at City Hall.
Sounds like a commercial. Thank you very much.
That budget review won't be, it'll be considered like a study session, I suppose. No, like-
There's no vote.
There's no vote.
No.
Okay.
Just an update, kind of a state of the city.
Yeah, it'll be recorded, but I just want.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marsh. Agenda additions, believe it or not, we have none. Of course, we have plenty on there as it is, 16, and I'm been told to get through this before the national championship, so cha-cha. Number 1, unfinished business, animal control, repealing and replacing ordinance 22-01, animal control ordinance, on its first reading.
Okay, Mayor, this is Terry, Mr. Plummer, Council. So basically, Kyla has met with Travis and I and Charlotte. We've all kind of worked together just to kind of clean things up a little bit more. As you can see, this is a very lengthy ordinance. And as Kyla has been here since November, she has came across some issues that needed some adjustments and editing and things. You can see where obviously the strike through is removing and the shaded is additions. I don't know if y'all have any questions as of right now. I know you need to look over it. And you all had mentioned last month, as far as, I just work here, ladies. Okay, sorry. I want you to accept me. As far as the euthanizing, you all had mentioned that we needed to kind of come down on that and make it happen sooner to get these animals, to get them out. Our kennel bill, I'm so sorry for talking. Our kennel bill is very large every month. And Kyla does a great job on getting them posted on Facebook, and then the city page shares them, and then a lot of us here share them, and she has gotten several out. But we need to get, some kind of regular information going as far as when you all want to put animals down and when we unfortunately have to do. I don't know if you all have any questions or anything yet.
I would like council to consider, one, you got to look at this and digest it. It's a big document. And 2, or 1, not 2, I didn't even tell you 1 yet, is that we can get together with these ladies and talk about what the options are for us. I know our kennel, as everybody knows, it's a staggering number, really. $6,000 a month, so.
That's not including our vet bills.
Yeah. So I think it'll be, I'm not saying don't talk about it, I want you to talk about it, but I think it'll be beneficial after our meeting to see what is available. I don't know if you guys, ladies, I'm sorry, do you have availability now? You can have some, so
Y'all
that's
do
just,
have available house them?
The house from dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, we can certainly discuss it. I think,
Okay.
you know, at your last meeting, you had just said that you've exhausted all options, which is not true. Because our option has not been exhausted.
Well, I
We've
read on
reached
Facebook.
out many times.
Okay, okay.
Well,
I don't want to get it, we'll talk about that later.
We'll sit down and talk about it,
Yeah.
so, that's what we want. I guess I wanted to say that to know that we probably have an option, maybe better than we thought, maybe not, I don't know, we'll see. But going forward.
Should we have a study session on it?
It's a big document, and we all know how long this has taken to get to this stage, much less what Kyle has been able to do with it, you know, recently, so.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, she is running every day,
Yeah.
all day, picking up people's families.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's just,
And we
somebody
do-
called it the Bermuda Triangle for dogs the other day.
And
We're
as you
seeing a lot
know,
of Fort Smith dogs.
Yes,
Yeah,
we are.
we deal, they deal, I should say, I get to hear it, but they deal with a lot of folks picking up the dog outside the city limits, bringing it in the city limits, and now it's
Kind of
all.
like the school system, y'all do such a good job with your school, everybody.
Yeah, that's it.
That's true, there you go. So I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah.
That's just, but no, any questions you got, now's the time to, Kyle is here to talk about what the changes was made, which, by the way, is a great job on it.
Very good job.
Yep.
You've been on top of it.
Yep. And Kyle is not new to this. We stole her from Fort Smith, as you know. Sorry, we hired her from Fort Smith. So,
Well, I mean, it is a lengthy document, and maybe we, you know,
preserve
do
this.
look at a work study.
Study?
Yeah.
You can do that.
Do we set it now or later?
What if we took time, I mean, give us time to digest this? You guys have these meetings you're talking about. I mean, we got first reading next month, second reading, and then at that point,
If you're not
we
ready.
need to have a study session or tell us where we are or whatever.
Makes
I
sense.
do have a question, Kyla. Is there anything that's like immediate need that this ordinance is currently keeping you, causing you problems?
Joe?
The dangerous vicious section is the big one because there was not an appeal section thoroughly written out. So if anything happens between now and when this is finished, I can't deem anything.
You can't what?
I can't deem it, like if I have a vicious dog attack, I can't deem it dangerous or vicious and get it out of the city. Because the ordinance wasn't complete in that section of the appeal process.
Okay. That's not good.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. I think there was something I couldn't.
Yeah, that's-
And they're not going to settle it tonight, I don't think. We don't have, I mean, we have a forum, we don't have everybody here. but-
And it's the lengthy, but.
Yeah, so we'll,
I'd like to make a motion, we accept the ordinance by title only.
have a motion second.
Put it on first reading by
First
title.
reading, Tom.
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
It's unanimous, and the mayor, sorry.
That's okay,
There's a quorum now, so you don't get fired.
fine.
When the ordinance that's in place right now, when was that adopted?
Like a year ago, I think we changed it when Casey was in office.
In office.
In the
Mayor Casey, would you like to speak?
In the position, he did clean up some of it as well, because the definitions were like, I don't know, 10 pages by themselves. So
Yeah,
it's
that-
been
that
about a
was a
year since
cleaning
we've done that
house.
before.
It was the very first ordinance of 2022.
Mhm.
All right, I'm gonna read the title.
Before that, it was 2016.
Oh, sorry, yeah, there you go.
An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance 22-01 and all other ordinances in conflict therewith, authorizing and regulating the keeping and control of companion domestic animals, creatures in the city of Greenwood, Arkansas.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kyle, I know you had a speech prepared. Would you like to share?
Not tonight.
Okay, and Mr. Plummer, you've looked at this as it is now, right, already, and you're kind of heading in the right direction. I think Kyle can, okay. Good deal. We will schedule a meeting with you ladies and see if we get something worked out. Number 2 on new business is Water Wastewater Commission confirmation of new commission member. This gentleman is here tonight. Ms. Teresa, would you like to do the honors?
The commission voted the other night to set Chad Martin in the vacant spot on our commission. I'd like to present him tonight to you. He has an extensive background in water management. He's not been in Greenwood for a long time, so I asked him to come tonight because I'm certain that he has not met some of you. And perhaps he can give us his resume a little bit and tell you why we picked him. Okay?
Sure. Thanks for having me tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to serve the community. Married, 2 daughters. I live in Greenwood. Been here almost a year, and the allergies are killing me. I'm a biologist by schooling. I'm a professional wetland scientist and a certified wildlife biologist. I have 24 years in environmental consulting experience. Most of that is with nationwide and worldwide engineering and environmental companies. 50% of my work deals with water in some way, some form, whether it's clean, keeping it clean, fixing dirty problems. First company I was with, it was a national water and wastewater engineering firm. So I know the lingo, I know the projects I work on, so I'm hoping to bring fresh perspective, make a couple of good ideas, and find some solutions to our future.
By the way, I recommended him in case you want to. Sure, I understand. You mentioned your allergies. Is your house with all the Bradford repaired, or is that next door?
No, that's fine.
That's your house? I think I've zeroed in. I'm not a doctor, but that may be it's gorgeous.
Too many together.
There's a few of them, yeah. Any questions or comments from council?
I just say I appreciate you bringing your expertise to the commission.
Right here. And I'm not leaving because there's a game on. I'm leaving because I'm freezing.
Right. Okay. We believe you.
We ask at this time if you would approve
Yeah.
him as an appointee.
I make a motion that we accept the confirm.
I second it.
A motion second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mr. Martin, my congratulations and condolences all at the same time. Thank you, appreciate you. And thank your wife for talking you into it, because I know she was a big part of it.
There wasn't much talk.
Thank you. We are at number 3, finance, 2021 legislative audit report.
This will take better part of about an hour, so.
Lean back.
This is a requirement, a statutory requirement that we share this information. We just sent back the audit report from the state. This is the Legislative Joint Audit Committee's independent auditor's report. I first want to make sure that they do have this, right, Cheryl?
Do what?
Yeah.
They have it all on it?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm not going to necessarily.
Oh, no, they don't have the audit report, they can get to it online, sorry. I knew there was something I was forgetting to put on these tablets.
Okay.
So sorry.
So that'll play right into this.
Let me go run it at it.
No, it's okay.
It'll appear.
You can go right ahead. if you'd like.
I'll go do
Can
that.
I talk while you do that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
This segment is called Take Time to Work For It.
Yeah. You want to get the highlights. The reason that I'm going to just go over this quickly is because at the study session, I'm going to be talking more in depth about this. So you'll have much more detail about some of these numbers that were contained in this audit report. First thing I do want to get across is, otherwise we'll do it.
Call you out of yourself.
Call me out. Okay. There's 3 sections to this, or 3 items or areas that are important as far as the first 3 letters that are submitted with the audit. The first is the independent auditor's opinion report, which is on the financials. Then there's a report in there that you will be seeing that's the independent auditor's report on internal controls. And then the last one is the management letter regarding the findings and whether there's any considered reportable, which would require a trip to Beautiful over Rock, Arkansas. The first thing I want to point out is that the legislative audit report had an unmodified, clean opinion. And basically they said, according to the regulatory basis of financial statements, these financials present fairly in all material respects the regulatory basis financial position of the general fund, street fund, and other funds. And if you want to know what the other funds are, it's going to be on page 27 of the audit. It lists all of the other funds, which are not water sewer. It's all the other funds that are immaterial individually, collectively, they do have an impact. There is also an adverse opinion on there. We have that every year. And the adverse opinion is because we don't present our financials to the state according to GAAP. And that's because we are a modified cash-based accounting, not an accrual accounting. And we also omit, because legislative audit does not look at the entire city's funds, they do not look at water sewer. So that's one of the reasons why there's an adverse opinion there. We are not required to do that. We are required to report based on the Arkansas Code annotated 10.4.412, and that is what they're giving an opinion on. We also have to, we're trying to get the legislative audit to get our audit on the schedule earlier in the year. Right now, they come in probably mid-September. It takes them about 3 months to get everything that they need and look at all the documents and all the things that go into our financials for the year. And then by the time they give us an actual audit report that has to be reviewed and signed off by in Little Rock, they do an exit conference with us right after the first of the year. Unfortunately, we have bond companies that want this copy of this report. Standards & Poor's wants a copy of the report. We constantly have to say it's not ready yet, it's not finalized. We send them a rough draft of it. And what they're really concerned about is that opinion. That opinion right there means a lot to them in the way of bond ratings are concerned and what Standards & Poor's reviews. So that's a good thing. On the second page of the audit report for the financials, they have what's called responsibilities of management for the financial statements. I've never drawn your attention to this section of this paragraph, but I'm going to make one comment about the last paragraph here, because it does talk about what management's responsibility is as far as presenting and preparing the financials. It does say in preparing the financials, management is required to evaluate whether there are conditions or events considered in the aggregate that raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern for 12 months beyond the financial statement date, including any currently known information that may rise or raise substantial doubt shortly thereafter. That's one of the reasons, that's standard in any audit. They want to know whether they're giving an opinion whether we're a going concern or whether we have some significant issues that would render us bankrupt, if you will, and go into the future. One of the reasons why I asked for a 3 to 5 year plan is for that very reason, because my responsibility is to make sure that you don't finance or mortgage the farm. We basically have to look at whether or not there's going to be adequate funds and revenue streams going forward to meet the needs of the city without significant debt. And that's one of the reasons why I'm emphatically pushing for the 3 to 5 year plan and getting them that. Let's see. We'll go into some more of this a little bit later. I want to go to the independent auditor's internal control review. This is a second internal auditor's report. Talks about internal controls over financial reporting. In the past, we were getting hit with several issues that were basically non-reportable, but they were findings regarding segregation of duties that were involved in their report. Right now, they're saying during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that are considered to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies may exist that were not identified. They do a pretty thorough review of our processes. I can tell you that for a fact. So it's been several years in the making, and we're trying to keep that as far as something off the radar, that we don't want to get into situations where there's an internal control issue that might lead to a material misrepresentation. So that's good as far as that opinion is concerned. And then the last one is the management letter. That's the third piece in there. And that's the one we always look at about who they look to, who are the officials that they look to that held office during 2021 and who are responsible for responding to this audit. And that would be the mayor, The recorder, treasurer, the finance director, and the police chief were involved in this audit. And it says no issues came to our attention considered necessary to report to management. So obviously that's a good thing. In the past, we may have had some things that raised some concerns that we didn't feel were concerns, but under the technicality of the law, we had some explaining to do about how things were managed and how things were done. That's no longer an issue, it hasn't been for a few years now. The financials are there, we'll go over those next Monday night, as far as what are some of the concerns that I have as far as the city is concerned, and or successes that are in there. The significant accounting policies, they have a financial report entity. It says the following funds have been included in the report entity. And what we don't include is water, sewer, and that's the only reason why we have the adverse opinion. As far as the fund balance classification on page 13 of the audit, that is the number down at the bottom of the actual audit report itself, they have listed there for your edification, because one of these is going to come up tonight. It has to do with the establishment of another bank account. That is a virtual bank account that we're going to need, that is a restricted purpose. But I wanted you to see in the audit on page 13 and 14 how the state classifies accounts. They do a restricted fund balance account, and it talks about that being regulatory, being something that's required of us by the government and by the legislative statutes. As far as the next one, it's committed funds, which is controlled by the city council via passage of ordinance is what they wrote there, but it's also resolutions. Assigned funds, which is also something that you could do for a specific purpose. And then there's the unassigned balance, which is basically the general fund and can be used for whatever purpose the city deems necessary, and obviously for all assigned legal reasons. So those are the four categories, and we're going to have you approve one tonight for the bridge, for the walking trail signage over at City Lake. We'll get to that in an agenda item coming up. On note 2 of the financials on page 15, it talks about cash deposits with financial institutions. Now I'm going to go into more depth on this on Monday, but again, for the second year, they do show our collateralization of our $16 million, which are in the bank, almost $17 million, back then it was. The collateralized amount, or portion of our fund balances was $8.6 million, but $5 million is considered to be uncollateralized. But it's not a problem because it's not required that that be collateralized, as it is merely an investment in securities by Farmers Bank in order to collateralize the amounts we have on deposit with them. The problem with that uncollateralized, they look at what they're investing in, and those $5 million have been identified as what's called a custodial credit risk. And we talked about that last year at this time. With the banking industry the way it is right now, that's becoming something a little more significant. We'll talk about some strategies there when we meet Monday. And the legal contractual provisions and deposits, it talks about public funds may be invested in eligible investment securities having a maturity not longer than 5 years from the date of acquisition. That's another part that you need to be looking at is our contractual provisions. Right now we don't have anything of significance. I do want to talk about on page 17 our legal debt limit. There are two types of debt that we have limits on. One is property tax secured bonded debt. The city is subjected to 20% of the total assessed value for tax purposes. At the current point, we do not have any debt under that structure, property tax secured bonded debt. We do have short-term financing obligations. There was at this time 3 short-term obligations defined as 5 years or less. And we had the obligations equal to, the limitation is 5% of the assessed value of taxable property. As of 2021, that was $6.4 million. Does that mean my time is up?
Does that mean it's over?
Does that mean it's over?
It's a warning for the ballgame.
No, that is. As of December 31st, 2021, our debt obligation ceiling was $6.4 million. The amount that we have in short term is $729,000. We did pay off one of those debts, so it is the property for what is to be considered as fire station number 3. That was paid off in 2022. We, at that point, as of 2021, 11.29% was used in our short-term financing obligations. Next page on the commitments, on page 18, it shows what those individual obligations were. But the one thing that they are at least making us aware of is compensated absences consisting of accrued vacation, sick leave, compensatory time off. Because we are a modified cash-based accounting, we don't book that. But if everybody quit tomorrow, how much would we have to pay out based on our policies? And that amount that's sitting there for 2021 was $319,656. That's what it would be if we had ceased. These are obligations that we don't have an option to say we're not going to pay you. We're on the hook for those. Let's see. Page 20 talks about a joint venture that we have. I do want to point out it does talk about the joint venture with Scenic Hills Solar. Interestingly enough, it said that in 2021, the statement says the city did not purchase any electricity in 2021. That's all it says. Well, that's obviously not true, or somebody else is paying for all of this. What they meant was that we didn't use any of the generated solar power, but we actually did. It started in November of 2021. So in 2021, November and December, we were on their solar panel grid, and we were getting generated power, kilowatt hours, over to Arkansas Valley.
Do we make an addendum to the?
No, I'm gonna leave it go. It's not material. What was material, though, is they're talking about we have the option to purchase the facility, which means the grid, at the start of the 6th year. And just so you know, that is November of 2027 is the beginning of our option year in order to buy the actual power plant. That's the only time you're really going to save money, is when you actually own that and you don't have to pay them for electricity that's generated. They have capital investment in that. That's why you have a 6-year period. So they're going to recoup that before they sell it to you. And then it talks about all of our interlocal agreements on page 21. I'm not going over those, but you can read those. And anything that we have an agreement with that we're obligated to is listed there. Next page is risk management. One of the things I do want to point out to you is the city also participates in self-insured fidelity bond. This is our employee dishonesty bonds. A lot of people wanted to know if we actually have that on our employees. We do. It's a bond that's with the AML for $300,000, not to exceed $300,000, and it's a $2,500 deductible per occurrence, and that is an employee dishonesty bond for theft or malfeasance, if you will. As far as workers' comp and municipal league defense program, you can read about that. We do have money that we pay right now. It's first $3,000 in aggregate costs of the expense on each lawsuit is picked up by the city. We do pay for a retainer on that. Number 20, page 22, number 15, lot fee. It talks about, one of the things I want to remind you is that the fire department Greenwood Fire Pension and Relief Fund was transferred to Lofty in 2017. One of the things you may not remember is that we brought that pension program to Lofty with a COLA, and we had to also fund the shortfall over the years to bring them up to where it was self-sustaining. You guys agreed to a 15-year amortization of the planned shortfall cost plus the COLA. That's about $8,500 per year, and the amortization period ends 2032. Just so you know that. Things you didn't know. As far as our lot fee is concerned and our retirement all in for the city's pension for employees other than with lot fee is $282,580 in 2021. And then you add that city clerk treasurer retirement payee for the two that we have. It's $38,000 more, so we're right at $320,000 for city employees. And our that's our uniform with the city clerk in that. I'll tell you the budget for lot fee city portion is $196,000. That's the uniforms retirement. Our non-uniforms is 123, which brings us to a total all-in, all employees, 282 plus the retirement for clerk. 320,000 is right now our commitment to retirement for our employees. And I believe, I'll go in, like I said, into more detail on Monday. Next Monday. So, any questions?
Questions for council? Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Good job as always. Appreciate it.
Oh, and it was a clean opinion, and we
Yes.
have to get
You
about.
were out of the room, I hear.
Do what?
You were out of the room when I said that.
Oh, we do,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, we have to take a vote to accept that, please.
Make a motion to accept the audit report.
Motion and second to accept.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Number 4 on the new business is animal control, orders repealing and replacing ordinance number 502, prohibiting unnecessary noise on its first reading. Ms. Danielle.
So this is just us wanting to match the times that are in the animal control ordinance, so that way the sounds or the timing is the same. So where she can regulate if somebody is running their truck too loud between 10 to 6 versus if the dog is barking from 10 to 6, that way both noise or sound ordinances are for the same time.
Still no hooting after 10
We didn't take
p.m.?
out hooting. That's an older one, we didn't take hooting out.
Serious, you can't
It
hoot?
really says that.
Sorry.
It's my favorite thing.
Sorry, preacher, no hooting out.
Yeah. And she's also adding, that we receive, 3 or more complaints within 90 days before we investigate that. We sometimes have had an issue with one resident complaining, I don't want to use names, about an entity being loud and no one else is saying anything about it. And so we don't know if that's something else going on. And so that's why she's kind of comparing it with Fort Smith. They have it where they have to get 3 complaints before an investigation or a citation can be issued. If that makes sense without me going into detail what I'm talking about.
It says, yeah, from separate households.
Yes.
I think we're making the same.
Yes.
Make a motion that we adopt the ordinance for its first reading by title only.
I second it.
Motion and second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous. An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 502, prohibiting unreasonably loud, disturbing, and unnecessary noise, providing a penalty therefore, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Danielle. Mr. Casey, just for your knowledge too, the old one has yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, or singing after 10 apply, so you're gonna have to be careful with free requests.
That's true.
Yeah, but you know.
It was strict cutoff.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to interrupt myself because this passed me by and I didn't realize it, but our city clerk treasurer has now been with the city for 25 years. So,
In April.
In April. So I'm going to do that.
Isn't there a law against hiring 12-year-olds?
Well, I was going to say, she started when I was going to say 8, but 12.
I think I was 26 or 25 when I started.
That means you're, okay, moving
Yeah,
on.
well, I was 25, I guess.
Moving on.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long time.
Bless your heart.
Yeah, I've been here my daughter's entire life.
Wow.
She was just 15 months old or something.
Very cool. All right, moving on, number 5, city attorney, services for city commissions.
Yeah, so real quick, just wanted to bring this to the council's attention. At times up here, I might be needing to draft letters, review documents or whatever for our commissions. However, ordinance 448, which kind of describes the city attorney's job description. It describes in detail what that means. That ordinance was adopted April of '91, which was long before we had any commissions. So I guess my question is, does that fall under the purview of my job description to perform those tasks for the commissions, or should I bill for those? And either way, I don't care, I just want to know. If it does not fall under the purview and I am supposed to bill, do I need to bill the city or the commissions?
I built Teresa straight directly. She's over on the square.
I know we have commissions that we didn't have in '91, and I sat on one, AC sits on one, and we do ask the city attorney to do things that didn't happen back. And we would expect, you know, we would like for those things to be done fairly quickly. I think when you do something for the A and B commission, you should build the A and B commission. Probably so forth with the others. You know, if you did something for the water commission, you should build the water commission. That's my opinion. Because the water commission does require you to do things and wants you to be kind of diligent, fairly quick to do it.
Well, as I said, it doesn't matter one way or the other to me. I'd just like to know if you guys want to think about it and get back to me later. That's fine.
I'm not trying to disagree with Rod, but the other side of that coin is, you know, we've had water and sewer departments all along that always had this work in contracts and whatever, you know. They're just doing it on behalf of those departments. A and P, I guess, is new, in fact. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying one way or the other what you should do, but it's probably something worth reviewing.
He's asking you to say one way or another, what he needs to do.
Well, you know, I don't think necessarily, just because there's a water commission doesn't mean there's more workload. Necessarily.
Because we'll have water issues with.
Because you had water and sewer department before there was a water commission. Now parks, you know, maybe the same, but I mean, they do more than got done in 1991, or whatever you're saying. You know, parks, everything.
Parks was not existent then.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much going on with those things.
And there's a lot of things that are going to be in existence here in a few years that are not existent now. As the city grows, all jobs get bigger, all departments get bigger, including legal. You know, legal's going to finally get to the point where we end up having to have a team versus one, like other cities that are larger than ours.
In my opinion, I think we should look at that ordinance for updating. If it's from '91, it probably needs to be updated.
So can we put that on next month?
And I know as far as I said from a water wastewater commission, I don't want to speak on behalf of Teresa, but you know, we didn't have really the issues of that we're having now as far as anywhere we expand, we're going into a rural water association, you know, and there's all sorts of issues associated with that.
So if we put it on next month, it's going to be on for 3 months. So Teresa, can you kind of review it within the next 3 months and give an opinion from the Water and Wastewater Commission?
We'll put it on our agenda for next month.
And if you see anybody from Parks, same thing.
Yes, you can give that to Joe.
And we'll pass it on to AP.
I know when I was elected, there was like 3 commissions added right after I was elected. I was like, okay, that's a lot of workload, but, you know.
Could you take a stab at the first draft of that for the next month meeting?
I could. That's what you guys like.
I think that's worth considering. I'd like to reconsider me having to deal with Danielle every day too, because she's quite a handful.
Wow.
That's a joke. It's a joke.
And vice versa.
I think it's the other way.
It's the other way around. That didn't take, that took longer than I thought it would actually. Yeah, you are correct on that. Okay, so we're gonna kind of table it for now, and we're gonna, not kind of, but Next, okay.
next meeting
Okay.
for a first draft.
Okay. Sounds good. You good? Okay. Yes, sir. Number 6 is finance, resolution to amend budget for street fund expense, capital expense, sorry.
Go ahead and take that one. When the budget was prepared, in the budget was a Kubota tractor for $44,900. And normally that tractor is, when you budget it, you budget with all the attachments, or you budget the attachments as well. When the Kubota tractor was purchased, in addition to the Kubota tractor, we determined that a front loader was also necessary, and it came in at $5,850, which is above $5,000. It is an item greater than $5,000, not in the budget. It's an unbudgeted item. Therefore, it has to be brought before the city council by the resolution for the budget. And what also wasn't budgeted, if it was just the $5,850, that's one thing. However, the taxes were not budgeted as well for the equipment. So what you have in front of you is a resolution to, because that's a little bit much to absorb in the operating department for street, we want to make a budget resolution to increase the budget by $10,500 to cover the taxes and the front loader for the Kubota tractor. If you need any more information on that, I would defer to Jeff.
So is this something we already own?
You bought the tractor.
We bought the tractor, we have not bought the front end loader yet.
It's all together right now, yes.
So we are doing this properly. I'm fine.
That motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget by the front end.
Okay. Motion second.
Mr. Brown?
So you're saying that we're going to increase the
Budget
budget by $10,500?
out of their operating, street operating.
Is that going to be, are the revenues there to cover that expense?
Oh, yeah, he has it, he's got over $2 million in that account, but what he could do is he could run the risk that he doesn't need funding on that and then have to cut in other areas. Or to be safe, he can adjust the budget with his blessing, and by doing that, then he lives within that and doesn't have to worry about adjusting the budget in other areas. That's the reason we're choosing this. We just need the approval on the front end loader, and we just want to go ahead and take care of it all at once and say, we're going to adjust that budget to absorb the cost with this. Therefore, he doesn't have to worry about other areas.
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, thank you.
Long, long way.
Thank you. Number 7 is a resolution to accept a bridge donation. We, see, how did this happen? Mr. Turner ran across, if you will, online, I guess, or somewhere out there, that there was a bridge available, not unlike the one that I got 12, 13 years ago to go, that we are now placing across the lake. It is a bridge over in Van Buren's. It's the Frog Bayou Bridge, Little Frog Bayou Bridge. And so it's the exact same process that we adopted that bridge back that many years ago. We put an application in, if you will, passed that information on to Casey, and we put this in with the help of Tracy from Wapatiti again, and within 2 weeks,
It was lightning fast.
really, really quicker than she thought, we were approved. I don't know if we're just suckers for bridges, but we were approved for this bridge, so now it is ours. If you so choose to approve this resolution, everything's done on it, if you will, paperwork and all that good stuff. We just need a resolution. We need to get a resolution for you guys to approve it. I did, sorry.
Transportation cost?
So the bridge will be delivered within 100 miles for free. This was brought to the Parks Commission just last week. They voted to, not unanimous, but I think just one vote, no, but they voted to approve this, to accept the bridge, knowing full well, because I made sure, in case you did too, that free bridges later cost you money to install and that sort of thing, but will be delivered. We are going to investigate a little bit the possibility of moving it when they do move it for free. Instead of bringing it here, we may move it to, what's the name of the company over there?
Harris or Josh Bell?
Yeah, so it's over on the 22, where the Hope Bridge is, or the Cuthbert Bridge, or whatever you want to call it, to maybe send it directly over there, because we're assuming we will do the exact same thing. It'll have to be narrowed. It's a 60-foot long bridge. It's very similar to the bridge that's over there, but it's 60-foot long instead of 90. And Parks Commission, if I may, with Casey's suggestion, is to put this across, what's your subdivision? Crooked Creek over to the trail, from the lot that the Parks Commission bought last year, I guess it was. So finally get across there. The Corps of Engineer, who Casey's been talking to, is reluctantly still to give any kind of approval for a low water bridge. They would rather us cross it with a low water.
The permit that got revoked was for a low water bridge.
That's correct,
Yes. And they have actually suggested we do it this direction. This will fit there. I mean, there's still engineering and all the things that we've gone through, or Mr. McDaniel's gone through with the other one. The Parks Commission is willing to get it, accept it, and whether they let it set for 6 months, a year, or 2 years, or 5 years, hopefully not 15 like we did the other one. But that's where we would like to. I think that's
The current bridge that we're working on, RDOT had a kind of a list of requirements that were awful, but you can't paint it, you can't do this, can't do that.
all the same.
Same rules.
Has to be taken out of driving. You can't drive on it. That's the reason they're taking out of commission. It has to be put on a walking trail. And they like the idea. And I got to think the reason this kind of went through so quick is that we're doing what we're doing with this one finally. And they like that. That's there was no time frame on when I accepted that bridge, when that had to go into a trail, but it just has to go into a trail. So here we are 15 years later doing that. So
what happens if we deliver that over to Josh Bell over in the back of Charleston?
Right.
And in a few years, he goes broke,
We're-
closes his business, goes
Yeah.
bankrupt.
that was a big part of the discussion with the Parks Commission. They were like, what happens if exactly that happened? Or would he even allow it there if we're not ready to make it happen immediately? He may not want it there. So the second choice is to put it back over there, or put it back where the first bridge was, and let it lie until the commission. They have big projects going, and that was pointed out. They have a splash pad to build, and so this is not something that was in their budget to spend another couple hundred or however much, that $300,000.
So what would happen if you sent it over to Josh Belk and got divorced and his ex-wife said, I'm charging the city of Greenwood storage on that?
Yeah, we would take it over there without a contract.
Yeah, it'd go over there.
We talked about that. We would not, we're gonna have a conversation with him and say, one, do you want it there, knowing that it may not be a while? And
I have a meeting with him in the next few days.
Okay.
If I can-
Absolutely, that'd be a good time to talk about it. No, we wouldn't just take it over there and assume everything's gonna be fine.
So are we accepting this as city or the Parks Commission?
We want, the Parks Commission to approve it, they send it back to you to approve as a city, well.
They can't pass a
Right,
resolution.
right.
Y'all have to do that. They have approved, sorry,
No, that's
to
not.
forward this to council for
Well, that was.
You're asking
Adoption.
who owns it? Is that what you asked?
Sort of. I mean, there was a discussion in there, it will be again, of it's your bridge, you pay for it, or it's their bridge, tell them to pay for it.
I think,
You know,
I mean, what we presented to Parks was it would be theirs, and they would be responsible for everything from now on. Now, if later down the road, pardon the pun, or down the trail, something happened, the Parks Commission didn't want it, and the city decided to put it somewhere else without the Parks Commission's.
I mean, it's all the city.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But they do own what they own. It's kind of, so they, right, their assets, they have their own, the parks.
This
cities.
Right, it's still.
So it's ours.
Right.
I mean, it's the city.
Yeah.
Parks Commission discussed it, that this is what they want.
Yes,
They
yes.
forward this.
This would not, yeah, we brought this to you per Parks Commission.
Well, I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion second to approve. Did I do that, Justin? Is that I should have let you talk about it.
No, yeah, you'd be great.
Karen Hampton said we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Oh, look at you.
I'm not going
Mr.
in,
Brent.
honey.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
I think we're rubbing off, yeah. I said that in ball game, that's not good either. Dangerous. Well, I'd just like to see people come together and bridge the gaps. Thank you so much. Moving along. Number 8 is A.C. Brown, resolution to authorize an amended budget for Adopt a Spot program.
Yes, since we have obtained the Center Street, or used to be Spur 10, you know, and just the wire, looking at ways of cleaning up the ditches, picking up litter and stuff, you know, I looked into some type of plan to do that and whatever, and Bob Purvis really, he's the one who took the lead on it, you know, as far as this Adopt a Spot. And I'd like for him to come up and just talk about what he's found about that and see if we can implement that.
Well, I'm at it, I got a bridge I need to see. This is a lesson in don't sit around after a council meeting shooting the breeze with your friends because you'll get volunteered for something. Adopt a Spot, and I'll give you all a brief clip notes. Adopt a Spot idea is nationwide, been going on for many years. AC had gotten some calls, we got some calls, I think Ralph had gotten some calls. People want to say, there's some volunteer program we can do, some paying up, cleaning up. So we said, well, fine, do some research, which means steal it from more than 2 sources. And we'd love to see what's done around the country. And basically, it's a place where you get a group, a family, a business, a church, a school, class, an organization, whatever, and they volunteer to keep a certain spot clean. Maybe a portion of a park, maybe a few blocks of street. It's public property only, and it's property that's designated by the street department, who's actually who's getting volunteered to do the work on this. And in return, what the city gives them is recognition. You get a plaque with your name on it, says this spot is cleaned up by so-and-so, and the tool to do it with. So, yeah, the picker-upper, the bags. Ralph Meeker hooked me up with what the Game and Fish does with their string team. You know, these are potato sack or onion sack. These are reusable. Without a label on them, they're 25 cents a piece, something like that, with a label or 2, because it's more. What we're thinking is start out with probably get maybe minimum order of 1,000 bags, and probably without the clue with the label. 100 grabbers, 100 vests. Just get the thing started. It's going to take us, with your approval, it's going to take us probably 6 weeks to say, okay, we're ready to go. We didn't want to spend any money or do anything that would cost extra labor until you all approve the idea. But what we think we can do is with, it probably won't be that much, but we said let's do a $5,000 budget adjustment to the street department. The street department buys things in the course of their daily business. So they can order the bags, they can order the grabber and that sort of thing. We've researched prices. We've also researched the contract that you enter into with a group that says we'll do this if you do that. We'll get releases signed, we've researched that. And I talked to Travis, told him I'd do the legwork, get it kind of all put together, and get him to just approve the wording in those things. I think it's a matter of civic right. It's important that we're able to say we like the way our town looks and we want to put some effort into it. When somebody's looking at moving to a community, whether it's business or residence, quality of place, quality of life is the #1 thing. And this goes to quality of life and quality of place, which goes to economic development as well. Questions about it? There's 1,000 details. Jeff and I have got a lot of things worked out, but there'll be several more little things like, okay, who decides, how to decide, how big a piece. And some of it, like the experiment, they'll pull up. Any addition? No, it's good.
I think one thing that you said on, as you were talking about that is, you know, that Jeff is willing to take that on and everything, that was like that we're usually, that we have it coming out of the general fund instead of out of the street.
I was just going to point that out. It's not something under the street department. While they will manage it and they will benefit from it because they are responsible for mowing and clearing the ditches for drainage along the road. And if it's cleaned up first, makes a lot of sense. But this is something that comes under what the mayor is trying to do as well. And when this resolution was written, it was put in that the $5,000 would come out of the general fund, not out of the street.
Right, but that, we didn't want to add something different to do the street department, they weren't planning on, they put it in that, so Jeff agreed to do the legwork. We're gonna do the publicity, Danielle agreed to help with that, get our media folks to help us get volunteers lined up, and I think it's pretty good for everyone.
It is a great idea. We did one day, when I say we, me and Danielle and Savannah and her kid, we had kids out there, and there was and Jeff came. We borrowed the street department, confiscated, if you will, it's the city trucks. We got to put the lights on because there's no shoulder out there. We were picking up trash. So it is a good idea, and we've actually, by Charlotte County, or did suggest, we're gonna, the 12th of May, right? April, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. 12th of April, I'm gonna shut down City Hall. We want 3 or 2 hours.
We're doing 2 to 5.
We're gonna do 2 hours, or 2 to 5, and wherever all employees have the opportunity, and kind of give it a shot in the arm, and maybe get some attention to it, so, and then you might get more response.
What I might do, I might see if, I talked with the Fish Stream team people, and they offered to give us a few, I might see if I can get us enough bags from them, just for our one-time deal.
Yeah, I know we have some.
We have, I don't know, probably 15 grabbers, if not more, and then we went and bought vests for this. We only got, I think I spoke on this last meeting, we only had 2 residents show up to help us, and we put it all out on Facebook.
And we're grateful
shared.
for those
We are
too.
very grateful, and their children came
And their
too.
children.
I even contacted the schools to let them know if they wanted to let the organizations and clubs know that we had all this here. If they needed any volunteer hours, we were never contacted that.
What I haven't seen is a pastor step up to the.
Right, yeah.
Calvary Temple adopted section. Very
Very nice.
And
It's a great idea, and I think it would be.
our thinking is, we'll start small, you know, we're not gonna order 10,000. We'll get a minimum order. If we have to order more the next week, great. But on the other hand, we don't wanna have to warehouse a bunch of stuff. Find out if we can find some volunteers, find out what we can, pick on some of your guys.
We'll take Zachary part.
There you go.
I'm serious, we'll take Zachary part.
Your bag is gonna work. We went out with plastic trash bags, and I can tell you.
They tear, yeah.
Yeah, because you're not just picking up paper and cans.
I've got one other source that I'm talking to
Basketball.
in Conway that has this bag, and I have a slightly different bag that may be tear proof as well.
Yeah, anything that won't rip would be really good. I challenge all pastors, contractors, news people. Who else is here?
Well, you know, the reward is you get your name there. If you're doing something that's cool. But the sign has another purpose. Nobody wants a sign up there that says, this blight the responsibility of the Smith family.
I'll make a motion we approve the resolution and Troop 54 will take Zachary part.
What amount in the budget? 5,000.
$5,000.
Penciled in there, put the amount in it. It's got.
I amended the $5,000 in the blank.
Okay.
Have a motion second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Oh, actually, Mr. Brown seconded it. Y'all didn't hear him down there. Didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right.
All right.
Well, it is done.
Anyway, yes, Mr. Brown is,
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Bob.
We're shooting for having it about the time school's out. Just to get materials, we probably won't be able to get it done before school.
I'd love to have so many people, we've got to figure out where to put them. Thank you. Number 9, planning ordinance to rezone property from R1 to PUD for East Village subdivision, first reading.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Chair, got a couple items on the agenda tonight to move the East Village forward, and they're building the subdivision on the east end of town, rezone from R1 to PUD, which is a planning and development of the subdivision known as East Village. The project is designed from the start as a PUD, as the most logical zone for the city, since the development will have many types of homes, and some lots will have smaller setbacks than the others, even some with a 0 lot line. The PUD zone will also allow the use of the Property Owners Association covenants, and you have a copy of the covenants in your packet, and maintain the responsibilities of work with place all the time, allowing for the comfortable living for all levels of resident income. It's recommendation of the planning commission that the council to approve this request and waive the second and third reading to allow the developers to proceed. They are at the point of wanting to start asphalting the streets, and so that's why we're asking for the waive of the second and third reading.
Where has HUD's been implemented?
This is our first one.
All right, I mean, what other area communities, whatever?
Any of your large towns that have a mixed-use type subdivision, Chad might be able to.
They're very popular in Chaffee Crossing area where there's no existing zoning. They call them PZDs, but it's the same thing as a PUD, where you write the zone for what you're wanting to do with the property in Chaffee Crossing.
So, is this a change from the original plan, or this was part of the
No.
original plan?
The original plan,
Well, how come when we did the original plan, though, we didn't do this? That's where I'm lost.
in July the 12th, 2021, when we approved the preliminary plat for phase one of the East Village, the analysis with that went with it says this plat divides approximately 85 acres into 251 lots for a PUD development. Within this PUD development, there are plans for many different types of housing, from starter homes, duplexes, cottages, retirement homes, and upscale homes. Preliminary plat has been presented and approved by all commission, department head, and local utilities. This was in 2021.
But it really doesn't, but it really doesn't say that PUD is going to, supersede our zoning regulations.
It is a zone. PUD is a zone, and you've got a copy of the planned unit development district in your packet also that's straight out of our zoning.
But we didn't so when we did, whatever that date was you just read.
Yeah.
When we did all that, we didn't.
We didn't rezone it at that time. It was just, we knew that that's what the development was intended to be. That's what all the discussion was about. I don't understand, why didn't you rezone back then in the beginning? It wasn't a priority to do it at that time. We were doing the initial phase one, and like I said, we knew it was presented to the council as a PUD. As from the time that we saw the first plans of East Village, it was considered a PUD, and it's just up to the point that we need to do the zoning now, so that when we get started, and again, my next item on the agenda is to approve the final plat. Then the developers can start creating like I said, they're going to start doing the asphalt and moving forward with the project. And this is just
We don't rezone the preliminary plat because, there's no offense to these guys, those are kind of hopes and wishes at that point. Until it becomes a final plat, that's when we go through the rezone. That means the commission has signed off on the design of the development, at which point the council makes it happen with the zoning, if they require rezone.
So the acceptance of the final plat is not at the end?
Similar, yeah. So you do the preliminary plat, and that's what they brought to us, and it was conceptual. We want to do a PUD, we want to do a mixed use. We approved that and then move forward with the project. But once they come in and bring us a finalized plat, that's when we go through and do the rezoning. That's the standard process according to our ordinance. It doesn't make logical sense to rezone prior to that, because it's subject to change at any point in time until we finalize that plat.
When the final plat is approved, then construction can commence. Residential construction can start.
Correct.
Why would you approve that before roads
So
or
they could,
infrastructure?
they have to come in and get the public dedications accepted. They could have brought the final plat in a few months ago and had that approved. But until you all approve the public dedications, the plat can't be recorded until that time.
I don't know that I've ever approved public dedications.
We call that approving the final plat for you guys.
That's where I'm getting at. So
It's
back to where
technically the public dedications.
what I've done here on the council for the last 18 years is we've approved the final plat. And then once the final plat is approved, then they can start building houses.
Yeah.
You approve the final plat with contingencies too. And, I think the contingency, I mean, we're skipping ahead now for the approval of the final plat, but the final plat would be based on the contingency of the completion of the as-built drawings, conditions listed in a letter from Brixie, which you have a copy of, dated March 7, 2023, and the needed certification. The approval from all department heads has been granted with these contingencies that's in that letter.
So once we approve it as a PUD, then they can alter within that, in that plat, you know, whatever
They can alter, what do you mean alter?
Yeah, as far as lot sizes or whatever, like.
No, the final plat is the final plat.
The PUD gives them the freedom to change those lot widths and zoning types within the development, and then they come to us with a finalized plat, and that's what we approve.
You said lot widths, other things.
It's mixed use, so they can mix in an R1 with an R5, duplexes, townhouses,
So
cottages.
is it, doing this PUD, is it another way of increasing the multifamily?
So they provided to us the final plat, the planning commission reviewed that, and they have dedicated areas for duplexes, they have dedicated areas for cottage style homes.
So what's dedicated right now for duplexes?
Well, that's all in what, phase 2?
In phase 2, there's 18 lots, and absolutely nothing has changed to what was presented to you guys the very first time.
Yeah.
It's identical to the first set of plans. The preliminary plat is the final plat. I'm not saying there's something that's not a foot different here and there, a little minor adjustments Chad's made, but this is literally the exact same thing that was presented 18 months ago. It's identical.
Well, I guess I still don't understand why we're not still going through, like saying the first reading, second reading, we're trying to, seem like all of a sudden speed up, but we've had, like saying, 18 months to be discussing this.
And that's the reason, because it's been 18 months. It was agreed on 18 months ago that this is going to be a PUD. The developers are at a point now that they have gotten everything approved, and they're ready to start asphalting and moving forward with the project. And so that's why we come to you to ask you to rezone this to the PUD so that they can continue on.
So we know that normally it takes, like saying, it's a 3-month process.
It's
So
a
now you're trying to
3-month and a lot of money for the developers to go through 3 months of readings when something has already been approved 18 months ago.
Well, we could have been addressing this, I think, like in December then, so that, so it all been coinciding, with them being ready to pour asphalt and stuff. I'm thinking all of a sudden we're saying, now you want to bypass, and to me, it's kind of like any kind of rezoning, we got to have it posted out there, if anybody has any comments or anything like that, it's now it seems like we're just saying, well, no, we're going to, yes, it was, I see that it was discussed, 18 months ago, but it still seems like we're trying to still jump through hoops there to try to get it all done quickly. I would be fine with doing it, at the first reading, but not, certainly not to bypass, second and third reading.
This says this is an ordinance, amending ordinance blank. What are we amending?
It's because the rezone ordinance is on there tonight, it'll have a new ordinance number.
Yes.
So it's what ultimately what we're amending is the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, it's just some legalese that has to be on there apparently. every time we do.
Master, the master.
Yes.
Hammy always said that. I questioned it once. I was like, why is it always saying that we're amending that thing? When we just do a rezone? I don't know why.
What say you?
So currently, that's ordinance 2213.
Yes.
True?
Mr. Brixey, could you, I'm sorry, shed light on, or anybody shed light on to the council what changes, and I think it's been asked a little bit, to make people maybe more, I don't know, what, by doing the PUD, and as Mr. Bell has pointed out, because it kind of was agreed upon back then, we talked about for sure, what difference does it make, or what differences can now be done with the PUD?
I may ask Jamie to help me out with that.
Okay.
He knows what they are intending to do with these lots, but.
Okay. But that's a good question, though.
Lot widths, I think we're,
You've got some lots that are 65 foot.
Yeah, lot widths on the initial design were less than 75, which is R1's minimum.
Right.
So the design shows some of the lots are 61, 62 through the 75, and some of them are more than that.
Side yard setback.
Side yard setbacks are 5 up to. With cottages, we have 0 lot lines, which that's obviously different from R1. The main reason for the PUD is, and then the backyard setbacks, I think we have one that goes from the 15 to, from 20 to 15. That's the main differences, is the side and backyard setbacks. And then, of course, the lot widths.
So one being a 5-foot difference, I think you said 15 to 20.
Yes, yes, 20 to 15, and then 7.5 to 5. And then, of course, on the cottages, there would be some 0 lot lines.
Okay.
I read something about phase 1 a while ago. Was that this or is that this other deal?
This is phase 1.
But what, the PUD is only, you said something's in phase 2 a while ago.
So phase 2 is where the duplexes will be up on the alpha packaging side.
This PUD applies to the whole thing, not
Yes.
just phase 1,
It
correct?
applies to the 251.
This, whatever's next is phase 1. True?
Yeah, correct.
yeah, final plat.
The final plat
Yes.
is phase 1. Okay. Zoning it.
No pun intended.
No PUD.
Catching on.
I would make the motion, we place this on its first reading by title only.
I'll second it.
So can I speak before y'all finish?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to.
So the reason that the emergency request is being asked is because we came as the developer to the city 9 or 10 months ago and asked, do we need to do this? And we're told no. We were told that we discussed it in 2021. We did not have to fill anything else out to switch it to a PUD. It's a PUD. Don't worry about it. We're done. We walked away. Myself and Buddy Wood. That's it. Then, about 6 weeks ago, is everything done? Is everything perfect? We want to cross all of our T's, dot all of our I's, make sure everything's good, so that when we present this to you guys, it's smooth and it's free flowing. We might have to do a zone change. We discussed this for 6, 8, 10 months. We've been out there for a year. Everyone has told us we don't have to do that at the end of 2021. We're good. Now, we're being told we have to do a zone change. And we're not asking to give us the world. We're not asking to change the rules for us necessarily. But we asked the questions, we made the inquiries, and we're told the wrong thing. Again, I didn't like to come up here and say that. We were told the wrong thing. The only reason we're asking for the exception and the emergency clause is because of that. Otherwise, this would be done. It would be done way before December. Because I don't want to be 3 months and, oh, we're almost there. We would have done it 9 months ago when we asked. That's it.
And to clarify, because I need to, you were told by planning department?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll just say this because it's about to happen. I'm very negative on emergency clauses. not an emergency of the populace that, I mean, I understand your situation. I have no problem with waiving the second, third reading, which expedites this process, yeah, by 2 months. It's 30 days after, for the
Posting. 30 days after it's posted publicly, if you do that. Take a vote. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yeah.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
It's unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number blank for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood.
Technically, at this moment, it's amending 2213.
Yep. And it needs to say it for other purposes out there, and it does not. I'm going to edit that, so you don't know.
I make a motion, we waive the rules and suspend second, third reading.
Suspend the rules and waive the second and third reading.
I thought that didn't come out right. I'll do what I meant.
I think that's, again, this is a big endeavor, and I think, and yes, I said that, I'm trying to look back here at what was included, it said that the plat divides approximately 85 acres into 251 lots for a PUD development. But, it doesn't really say that PUD is going to be a zoning change, I mean, to me, PUD development could mean just that it's the terms, and, you are going to have different walk lines and stuff, because we saw that, it was different walk lines in there, and we were okay with that and stuff, but to me, it doesn't really say that, that a PUD development is a zoning change, in this one that was presented to us 18 months ago. And so I still think we should go through unfortunately, through the proper steps, the zoning change, especially one of this magnitude.
Mr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
No.
That's for lack of majority. That was first reading, it'll go back on the second reading for next week.
All right. Second item is the approval of the final plat, phase 1 of East Village subdivision. The preliminary plat was approved June 21st, 2021, with contingency listed at the time. The approval will be based on the contingency of the completion of the as-built drawings, conditions listed in a letter from Mr. Trixie dated March 7, 2023, and needed certifications. The approval from all department heads has been granted with these contingencies. It's the recommendation of the planning commission to the council to approve final plat phase 1.
Can we approve this without having the rezoning approved?
If I can speak, the final plats don't include zoning information because in the future that, properties can become rezoned. So this plat doesn't have setback lines. It doesn't say what zone it is now, and that's the reason for that, so that a plat that's filed doesn't have to be replatted if some, if 1 or 2 lots get zoned or something of that nature. So approving the plat without the rezoning, it doesn't matter what zoning it is, the plat won't change. And again, the plat won't be filed until all the certifications, as-built, and full city approval of the improvements. That's the contingencies. But hopefully that clarifies a little bit. It's pretty much independent of the zoning. The plat doesn't have zoning information on it.
And I guess I was reading some somewhere where it said that something, 75 homes were affected, or 75 lots. I'm trying to see where I saw that at.
Said 80, flat divides 85 acres into 251 lots for PUD development. The cover sheet.
Now, the letter from Mr. Brixey says that it contains 78 lots and easements. That might be what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's it, 78 lots. And where was that at again?
It's on a letter from Mr. Brixey.
Okay.
The plat itself doesn't have any references to PUD.
And so is this the final plat for the phase 1?
Yes.
So, Sonny,
Yes.
is this an ordinance or not?
No.
So you simply need a vote from us?
Yes. Just here, vote for approval.
I'll make the motion, we approve this final plat for phase 1.
And again, is the plat, I didn't see an actual, plat in ours, is there one on the computer or whatever, is there a final plat show that
No, not on the tablet.
on the tablet?
I mean, I didn't get a picture of anything, right?
I thought I sent you one, but I don't know. We can get you one if you.
I've got a couple of copies here, and if you,
Yeah, you can pass them, one down there, one down here maybe or something.
Thank you, Chad.
as Jamie said, it's virtually identical to the preliminary plat, if you guys did get to look at it.
And so I'm trying to see on here where it says phase 1 again.
Bottom right should say.
Bottom right.
All of the bolded, or the bold, I guess, is phase 1, right?
That's
Is
right.
that bold where the cul-de-sac is, where it's coming up, the bold?
Bold print,
Oh, sorry.
the darker print.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
I'm going to say everything, say the darker print, and that's everything kind of around the center part where you're doing it.
It's the stuff in the middle, yeah.
So it's this all right here.
That's right, all this right here is
Space 1, okay.
the shaded stuff is basically.
Okay.
That around that common areas where the multi-family stuff was, right?
There is some cottage lots inside.
In that kind of.
The duplex lots were over here by east,
What was here?
Those are cottage style lots, the small.
the circle,
noted by the
and
city.
what's in the circle?
What's in the circle for phase 3 is going to be cottages.
Cottages.
Lots. That's like potentially it's going to be a kind of a retirement village kind of thing. But that's in the later phase.
Yes, please.
I see.
Ready for vote?
Yes.
Ms. Rainwater?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Mr. Brixey, do you need these back?
You can keep that if you like.
I got a question and or comment. Mr. Brown, Mr. Colley, what can you do now? Can you go ahead with the roads? What?
The roads were never a contention. I don't know why that was brought up.
Right.
I mean, we're paving this week.
Okay.
That's not part of it.
Okay.
What we can't do, and honestly for me, it doesn't affect me here as much as it does Casey, Buddy, and Sean. Because a lot of my lots are per R1. So I can go to Hunter and get an application, fill out my permit and go. For these guys, the other 15 lots that we have sold, they can't do squat. And I don't think that's very fair.
No.
They can't even go to the bank and close on their lots because they can't do that.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
That's what I was going to ask of the two no votes, and this is just for my information. I just kind of wonder what, by putting this off, what do we gain? I mean, other than making them wait these 3 months or whatever it is. What can the council do, or what would the council do during this period of waiting, other than just hearing the same thing and reading the same thing again for 3 more meetings?
Well, in any rezoning, you put a sign out there and you ask for public comment.
I haven't put it out there,
Okay.
there's been no, we got one question, one person called, and when I told them what it was, they were good with it.
So you've already done that.
Yeah.
The planning commission went through their process.
Yeah,
They're the
I
ones
just,
that set the change.
for the life of me, can't understand why we, unless there was something that we would do to change it, and within those, and we're talking 3 months, 90 days, 60 days?
Unless they wait.
Well, we didn't, they didn't, and that's what I'm
No,
asking.
next time, next week.
Yeah, so I'm just curious what it is that Mr. Powell, in this case, or Mr. Brown, would want to be done different in the meantime.
Well, I think again, it's just kind of the same, just doing the due process. We have a process.
What process, what does that, I understand due process. What do we wish to accomplish by doing that? In this case, you mentioned the size of it as if that's a kind of detrimental to it. I think it's in the other way. I think the size of it, the magnitude, and the process that these gentlemen have already gone through, and the planning commission have already gone due diligence. I mean, I get it that you would be shortening this process. So if you voted that way, you didn't. But by not voting that way, I'm just curious the reasoning behind that.
Well, I guess I'm just curious why it wasn't presented to us like in December.
I'm not, I kind of had the same question, and I'll ask it that, but I don't think that's relevant, to be honest with
I mean, your 3-month waiting period is, if for a normal rezone, is there so that you give the public plenty of time to have notice.
you. Yeah.
The public in this instance has had 12 months to notice the developments going on. The rezone for us is more of a red tape kind of.
That's always the reason for a 3-month
Yeah.
reading.
But again, sometimes the council meeting is a form of a public notice too. And so when people hear it in a council meeting, all of a sudden, they say, oh, I didn't realize that.
Well, I would agree with
the first
that.
time.
Typically, if you notice, we have folks here that they're either here to get a project going, or we very seldom have anybody show up.
No, I agree with you. In a normal circumstance on a plot that no one knows anything about, we're rezoning it from an R1 to an R5, and that's going to affect all the neighbors in the neighborhood. The 3-month waiting period is a great idea, because that gives people that are unaware time to come to council meetings or see it online. But in this instance, I mean, they've been driving by it since 2021. So nothing's new, and then they know there's a neighborhood going in, just the fact that it's changing from an R1 to a PUD to then means no difference. In this instance, it's not just one singular lot that affects just a small area. The effect has already been well known. That's my take on it.
I just, for my own personal, if I may, I just don't feel like we're still yet giving out, and maybe we don't want to. I do, give out a welcome to developers. It's just not there. In fact, we just somehow continue to stymie it. In a world, and I'm telling you, we're going to be growing, and anyway.
Well, I know this was presented to us 18 months ago, so we've had 18 months to present this to us so we can do it in an orderly, timely fashion.
I understand. I don't disagree with that. 18 months. You're kind of making my point for me. You've got 18 months to decide on this. And I asked the questions of what a PUD does to this. Didn't sound like there's a whole lot. I mean, there's some variations. Obviously, you can make some changes. But all along, since they've come here, this has always been, whether we called it a PUD or not, we did evidently at one time, it's all incomes. It's duplexes, it's townhouses, it's up to a $300,000-400,000 house, I guess. I don't know, everything in between. So, I don't know. All right, I guess we'll move on. Next item, yes, sir.
Next
the change in the rezone ordinance that was requested by the council. That's the reason why there was a blank spot on that. The last one that is planning commission approved the changes in the zoning ordinance that allow storage facilities only in industrial zones. Changes have been made on our ordinance, and I recommend a repeal of ordinance number 2213 and replace it with a current ordinance number. I think Ms. Berry has included that in your packet or on your screen showing the changes. Basically, the change was it added to the definitions. It went down to C2 where storage facilities were allowed to begin with, and it says storage facilities location. Storage facilities may be only located in an I-1 industrial zone under provision of these zoning regulations. And then under I-1 restricted industrial district, it spells out the requirements to put a storage facility in that area. Shall be allowed if the project meets the following guidelines. Storage facility can't be located within 1/4 mile from an existing storage facility. So you know where our industrial park is right now. There's not a 1 mile area that's available. No development permitted within 160 feet of floodway or floodplain. One parking place is required for 1,000 feet of building. Landscape design must be approved by Greenwood Planning Department. Conditional use authorization under Greenwood Planning and conditional use legend and approved by the Planning Commission. That's the changes you requested.
Everything that you have in your packet, all of the shaded areas are language that either he's added or changed, I guess. And the entire document is on your tablet. I just didn't want to print all the ones that aren't changed.
I want to recap this for a minute because I got blown up on Facebook
I got telephone calls too.
several times. There was nothing in our regulations that specifically stated where storage units could or could not go, right?
No.
So when it first came up, I don't remember what the question even was, but we were told they were granted a variance, went through the planning, and they were given a variance. And then the following month, that wasn't right. We went back on that and said, well, there wasn't anything in the regulations. So that led us to here. Now we're putting it in the regulation, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not about, you know, one of the accusations is we're communists because we're telling people they can't build something. It really wasn't about you can or cannot, it's about where you can or cannot. I mean, we regulate where everything else can or cannot go. So that's really what this is about. It's not about telling you particular business you can't, we don't want you in Greenwood, Arkansas.
Well, I got hammered because the accusation was because they were not a tax producing business that we were against them. And I explained to them that there's a lot of non-tax businesses and that are located along Center Street or Tennisburg, I named churches, hospitals, rest homes, things like that, that are not tax generating businesses. And
so the whole of our zoning master plan has in part that. I mean, that logic of are they a tax generating entity is part of the master plan in general, right? I mean, industrial theoretically hires people and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all that's part of it. It's part of the picture. But that's not why we're having the discussion necessarily. But anyway, all right. I just wanted to clarify all that. And, I'll make a motion to place this ordinance on its first reading by title only.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous. An ordinance repealing and replacing zoning ordinance 22-13, declaring an emergency and other purposes.
The moratorium that is in place was
90 days.
90 days.
Yes.
And we have.
Was it 90 days or until something has been done? Or was it?
You know, I don't know.
90, well, I think we said 90 days and we'll extend it if we have to. Yeah.
But we have no plans in front of us right now for any future.
No one's up here right now wanting to do that.
There's no emergency.
Yeah. Because there's been a lot of conversation about it, I don't think we should force it through.
Yeah. I agree.
So we'll remove the emergency clause.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. You vote. Are we good?
I voted, we voted, not read.
Oh, wow.
First reading. That's
Okay,
it.
that's all right. Sorry. Okay, moving on, number 12 is a resolution to amend purchase card policy. You tell you what prompted me to bring this up is we have a boot. Some of our departments are different. Everybody's a little bit different, not everybody, but some departments have a uniform expense that doesn't say boot. Other departments have uniform and a boot allowance. There's two reasons I wanted to bring this. One was to change the amount of that boot, which is not necessarily in this, right?
It's not written anywhere. It's something we've done over
Yeah,
the
we
years.
just done it, and it's become $150 over the years. And I, like everything else, $150 for a pair of good boots. May or may not be hard to come out, depending on where you go, but I'm suggesting we get that up to 200 across the board for all departments.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, you may.
Sorry.
Yes, you may.
Food allowance is a reimbursable type expense.
Right.
That's where it's been kind of different than
Right.
anything else.
Yep.
Because the city reimburses the employee up to $150 or whatever boot they purchase, footwear, and they bring us the receipt. $150 is reimbursed the employee by the city no more.
Right. So, and I've already scratched out some of what we put in, what Charlotte was going to put in there. So, and again, the reason I brought it up, one was because of the cost of them, and two was because not every employee necessarily can go out and spend $150 or $200 of their own money and wait to be reimbursed. Now, when I say wait, it doesn't take long. Finance department's very good about getting that check turned around. But, so what I want to do is scratch, you have that paragraph on page 5, exclusions, and I personally, I want to go ahead and take out, I'm sorry, Charlotte, she did this, but take out the last, from this, I want them to have an option. I want one, if need be, the department head has the card, he can go, if he's there, and I happen to be there the other day, or Sonny did, and I wanted to have two options. I wanted the department head to be able to go with said employee, help him get the boots for him with a card, where it's paid for, nobody's out any money, nobody's waiting on a reimbursement, to help those that don't have that money in their pocket. I realize that would take them. I'll use Jeff as an example. If somebody over there in the street department needed some boots and they don't really have the cash, they both got to leave their job, whatever they're doing, and go get some boots and come back. That, to me, that's just something to benefit, or I guess you call it better equipped that employee. Now, I still, but not take away, as I originally told Charlotte, not to have it replace the reimbursement part.
It's the sentence before the last sentence in that paragraph that he wants to eliminate.
Yeah.
Where this replaces
Right.
the boot allowance program, basically.
Yep. So I want them to have that option. Have I covered that right?
But basically, there's a lot of employees that would like a boot that is greater than what the
Yeah,
limit
and
would be.
there's that too, yeah.
Because they want a certain steel toe, or
Yes.
they want they have a reason for needing a more expensive one. The idea was that if we cap it, they're more than willing to say, give me the allowance and I'll buy a better boot. And basically, we didn't want to take that away. Plus, we don't want to force a card given to an employee, that's a director's card, to go buy their own boot. And then what if the employee's with the supervisor and says, well, I know it's a $200 limit, but these boots cost $250 and I really want that, and I do have $50 or I do have $25. If you just do the boot allowance through the purchasing card as a program, just buy them on the card, if they go over, then we're going to be in the receivable business again. We're going to have to wait for them to reimburse us for the difference. And that's not something that we want to get back into.
Also, I think we need to remember that the whole reason probably, I think, for the boot allowance way back when and how it's been every year is because this is a personal use item. And of course, public funds are not to be spent for personal, private purposes, which they work for us. We buy uniforms for them, blah, 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 but the boots are something that's going to stay with the person. They're not going to be reused by anybody else. And so I think this was a way to show the auditors that we're having them purchase it, but we're just going to go a certain amount and we're going to require a receipt that that's what they did with that money. So I don't know if that's any different when the city purchases it for them on the city purchase card because it is a private, personal use. Our procedure or purchase card procedures forbid personal use. And that was the whole kind of sticky thing on boots. But it's not written anywhere about our boot allowance, period. So it'd be nice to have that boot allowance thing kind of in your paragraph.
Right.
If you want to allow purchase of boots.
I don't know that I would consider it a personal use item, considering the city has a dress code per department.
But it's personal use that you could use it outside of work. In other words, we don't take it back when you leave.
Well, can I comment on that too? Most of my guys don't wear their boots on. The stuff, and they can attest to this, the stuff that they're in, they don't put that in the personal car. So most of them wear the street shoes in, put the boots on to work, and go. So the boots aren't going home.
Well, they will if they quit.
Well, at that point, I don't think anybody wants them.
That's my point.
Right, that's where, that's what the
They're
point is.
personal.
They're gonna be with them.
And they may not either. They may throw them in the trash can before they leave.
Only 3 departments do not have boot allowances. Planning, animal control, and parks. Everybody else has a boot allowance. We just want to make it optional. We want you to be able to decide whether you use the purchasing card or not. But if you use the purchasing card, we need language in the purchasing card policy that says you can do it.
Agree.
That's kind of where we are. We don't want to go.
City attorney said, we're talking about this, we're having a little sidebar, go ahead.
If you're worried about personal use, argument or whatever, or them leaving, you can put a clause in there that says, if they leave within 90 days of getting their boots, then they will not be able to keep those boots. But I don't think.
Because what we're gonna do with it, right?
All cities do this, so I don't think it's an issue as far as the private use goes. As long as everybody understands when they're bought, these work boots.
Well, and years ago, 100 years ago, maybe not quite, but I worked in transcript, and I understood that they had a boot allowance, and guys, there was some abuse, and you can do that. I mean, they bought hunting boots, and then went and bought a cheap pair of steel-toe boots, right, to come to work, like Dalton does, I'm kidding. So, but, yes, sir.
Ours, when we first bought ours, and I was in sewer, we bought ours because guys needed waterproof boots to stand in sewer and work. And so that was the main reason. The water guys, distribution, they also were in water all the time. So they were more expensive because they were waterproof. We weren't going for steel toes or anything, just waterproof.
Well, and I think that goes.
Because you're in it a lot.
Certainly in sewer. I mean,
yes.
I don't want to water.
You're in it quite a bit.
Boots, but waterproof anyway.
Well, I see a bunch of them be hunting boots because they're waterproof.
Well, usually after a year, half of them don't even last a year.
Yes, true.
Most of them are gone before then. But,
well, it's a good benefit that he does. He's wanting to raise it.
But it is a benefit, and they do appreciate it.
Well, raising it to 200 right now brings a whole new
different
thing because there's already a whole bunch of people that already bought their boots. Already
we can do that
to 150. That's a next year budget item.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I just want to put both of those things out there and say, I think it's time, so yeah, next year's budget.
So,
I'll continue.
150 is what everybody should do, right? Because that was what was budgeted in those.
I think that's what everybody's done, right?
Yes.
So,
But in the
to
department.
cause, to keep from having what he just described, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. But there are some departments without the boot allowance, but they got the boots, so.
It's, they have
How do you treat
uniform.
it?
But they put
It's
boots in the
uniform?
uniform.
Yeah, that's what
Because I
it
mean,
is.
why don't we have it separate?
Individual budgets and we can make that uniform part of the fund next year.
Yes.
I think we should.
Across the.
I like that too, just make it down.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm confused. Did we talk around in a circle and we don't need to do this now?
We do,
No.
for for the language that's in there regarding,
Just eliminating the
She said
one
about
sentence
personal
use.
about this replacing
I don't,
boot allowance.
yeah, still, yeah.
we don't consider purchasing boots as personal use.
Where is that sentence?
Next
It's
to
in
the
the
last
page.
sentence on this paragraph on the last page of the procedures.
Should, blah, blah, blah.
This procedure eliminates former boot allowance. It's just saying,
Yeah.
you're,
Get rid of that sentence?
yes, yes.
Yeah, but the two above it says that purchasing items for personal use is not, it's prohibited. But it says excluding purchases of work boots. Those you can do. That-
We're allowing that.
We're allowing that.
And change it to 150 so we don't have to mess with it.
Oh, do you want to put 150?
Yeah, because,
So the policy matches.
yeah, I don't want to get into, and I understand that.
Well, we own 50 more bucks.
Right. Well, next, the budget time, I would like to suggest we change it to 200 for next
At the
year.
next part.
So, I'm trying to follow everybody. On page 5, that's what we're
Yes.
looking at, and changing that to 150.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and losing the sentence
This
that
procedure.
starts with
eliminates.
this procedure eliminates.
That last sentence then, what you're saying, or the second to last sentence.
That all the way down to the end, from this procedure eliminates all the way down.
Yeah, all two sentences, basically.
Okay,
Two sentences, sorry.
So when we bought the boots, did they just, they were like $150?
They were limited.
They were limited to that. Some may have spent more
On the
money.
purchase card recently, I mean.
No,
So we
Good
need to
point.
have those employees pay back or something, to make it all fair, right?
well, my only, I see the point, but the difference is that
They didn't know that.
somebody,
They don't have a boot allowance.
they don't have a boot allowance, they have a uniform.
They have uniform.
Just use me as an example. on
So-
where
He bought some boots, and as he should, and there were 200-ish. He bought his under the
Uniform.
uniform allowance, not anything specific, boot allowance at all, it was just uniform.
And us too.
And I get it, that if the guys, everybody know, or I mean, it's public, so I'll lay his $50, there's no need, there's no way in the world that he should have to pay $50 back.
Because, I mean, the other boys have uniform allowances too, you know what I mean? Have uniform-
Well, and I understand, and if they were held 150, I
Right,
don't
they
know that
were.
they were.
They
Were
were.
they?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were.
That's fine.
I'll pay his $50, we'll move on.
But for next year, should we address it as just saying the uniform allowance, or?
Well, the only reason I kind of like it separate is because in my uniform allowance is a contracted service. So I have a company that comes and gets and maintains
I think
them.
it's good to have.
And so I like it separate from my other purpose.
We should just address the dollar amount.
Right, correct. I agree.
I agree.
And still like that, in the course of a year, if they tear up a boot where they get to purchase another one.
1 year.
1 year, just 1 year.
And it says that 1 year in here.
No, we need a written thing somewhere. It can either be here or.
We can put it in the handbook when we
In the
present all the
handbook.
We
other.
have some
I think it is in
one
there.
per year.
Yeah,
It's in the
it's
handbook.
one year.
Is it in the handbook?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Somewhere, I did read it.
It's just not in the
The
policy.
amount is not in there.
Well, again,
Make a
That's a-
motion, we've talked long enough about boots.
Make a motion.
Or you?
Can I approve this?
Other than that, what's your?
I make a motion, we approve the resolution with your suggested amendments.
Okay.
Okay.
second.
Motion second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 13 is resolution to establish Michael LeJean City Lake Signage and Trail Project virtual bank account.
Okay, that's what I was talking about earlier. We had some donations that were given in order to honor Michael LeJean and the sign that they want to put out on the city lake. Initially, we were going to take the funds as a collection point and then turn them over to Mrs. LeJean. Has established an account over at Farmers Bank. And she wanted to do that because there were some people that wanted to do direct electronic deposits into the fund that were from out of state, and other family members that wanted to do that. And instead of us taking the money, we were going to take what we collected and we're going to write a check to that fund to get it off our books. So we parked it just as a revenue item for donations for this year. We're not sure if we're going to be able to complete the project in a year, and we don't want to have to send it over there just to have her send the money back over when it's time to pay bills. So what we're doing is we are going to go ahead and establish this account as a restricted account for the sign and trail expense. It's been expanded because he was a mountain bike enthusiast or something. And so it's restricted fund account for the lake trail and signage. And what we would do once we got to the point of paying bills is we would take the money that we had, use it first, and then we would ask for, in cooperation with Ms. LeJean, to take the money that's set up at Farmers Bank also for this purpose to fund the remaining residual portion of the sign cost.
Make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion, second, to adopt.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 14 is authorize destruction of city records. Who wants to take that one?
Sure. I mean, this is just a list that has had 2 items added to it than what initially went out in the packet. What's added is the Human Resources Department had inactive employee retirement paperwork that can be destroyed, and 4 inactive employee personnel files that are 20+ years old. So those can be destroyed.
Make a motion to approve the destruction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve destruction.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Yes, all of those did meet the requirements for
Yes.
time frames.
We make sure that they meet that list.
Okay. Thank you. Number 15 is resolution authorizing Wapatiti, Western Arkansas Planning and Development District to administer a senior center grant. This is just a little housekeeping, if you will. We've received the grant, as you know, announced last month. I just signed the papers on it Friday. To remind everybody, it's the $530,000, whatever it is, $500,000, if you will, to go toward our senior citizen center project. And so this just allows Wapatiti to, again, administer this grant and do all the things that we need to do to make it.
Make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
And just so to kind of get you on the same page and everything, if you will, I didn't bring it with me and I should have, but the guidelines for that grant, actually, if you follow everything just like it is in there, we won't actually do the expenditures out of that grant until November of this year. But Tracy McKenna said from Wapatiti that depending on how quickly Travis Bartlett from MAHG can get those plans back, and I have asked Hunter to stay on him about that. The sooner we get those, the sooner we don't have to wait. All of that can be moved up, and we already have $150,000 of ARPA money left over from the purchase, so we can. Buddy's not here tonight, but he's volunteered to be that
General contractor.
general contractor on the job. So we're gonna, as soon as we get get something back from Travis, we'll start expending some of those funds from ARPA fund, and then soon, hopefully, this stuff also. So, any questions on that, where we are? I know a lot of people have asked me, we bought it, why aren't we doing anything? So it just takes a little time to get all the ducks in a row and get it started.
And so, has got any timeline of like when we can see the, design or?
As soon as he gets it done, we're just.
I have been on him, and he doesn't have anything estimated yet. I can give you the typical phrase, it's in engineering.
Yeah. I made a somewhat not out of promise to those folks over there. I try to have them in August, but I don't know how that's gonna work, but we'll see. So, we'll be moving quick as we can soon as we get the plans back. Thank you for that. Number 16 is ordinance prohibiting heavy haul and semi-truck traffic on Highway 10 Spur / Center Street now. So, as you know, we accepted the early overlay on that street, which is now, instead of 10 Spur, that section is a Center Street. And we are determined, if you will, to keep as much of that through, not local delivery, but some of those semis off of that highway to protect our investment. Arkansas, or RDOT has done well by placing signage on all ends of town. If you're a truck driver now and you're coming down 71 and you used to turn on what was then Center or Highway 10 Spur, out there at the welcome sign, there's signage there. We've had our portable signage out there for a month, telling those truck drivers that this is not it. You have to follow the truck route. There's truck route signs that sends them on down to Highway 10. And then they come in and then they turn, as you all know, they're by the old current senior citizen center and come through town. I've noticed, and that message was sent out through every available process that we could come up with. I know Jeff was in touch with the Arkansas Highway Patrol, the transportation folks. They put it out to the trucking companies. The signs are up. So I've noticed a pretty good big difference in those. It'll always be interesting for the PD to decide, and as Lieutenant described to us this morning, they have the ability to pull those trucks over anyway, just to kind of check with them and see what's going on. That's not your language, but mine, I guess. So we're working on it. And so what we're asking you is what we didn't have, if I'm right, and I talked to the chief about this is the reason I brought this to you. And this is not finished yet. I mean, there's a lot of blanks there. So it's just for you to look at for now. I'll get back by next month. We'll have the real deal in front of you. But just so you know what we're working on is something for our local police department to be able to ticket those that have been determined, however that determination is made, that they are not local delivery. They continue to use Center Street as a truck route.
They just have a bill of lading that tells them where they're going.
So you're not asking
No,
for first reading?
No. I just gotta want to put it, I just gotta.
We'll make that not less than $200 instead of not more than $200.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So when you say local deliveries, you're not affecting Jaggers?
Anybody, Jaegers, Walmart, if they're delivering in town,
How are we affecting a concrete truck going to a job site?
I don't think we can. I think we're just gonna have to be.
That's a local.
Absolutely. Dump trucks that are.
Well, if he's going from Arcola to Jamie Brown's,
Right.
he should follow the truck route.
Exactly. If he's stopping anywhere,
Not coming through
I think
Center
you
Street.
do. Jeff, can you?
Yeah, if they're passing through town and not making a stop in town, that's when we would have the teeth with the ordinance to actually enforce if the officer, his discretion did. But yeah, we would be able to ticket then if they were passing through the town rather than stopping in the city limits.
So oil and gas truck.
Not taking the truck route, I'm sorry.
So a truck hauling something for oil and gas, big compressor going from Little Rock to Oklahoma City, passing through, they gotta be on the truck route.
Yeah, and if they're caught on Center Street, they're definitely going to
So
take it.
if it's a tractor trailer delivering groceries to Harts, they're cool.
They're good. That ordinance would not allow us to ticket them, and also, there's no other way to transport goods into the city rather than
So
Heavy trucks.
heavy equipment coming through, a big track of going to a job site, as long as it was a job site in Greenwood, he's good.
Yeah, and the way those
They're
ordinance
going
readings
Greenfield.
is.
Right.
They better be on the truck route.
Right.
Well, I think just to, as far as, this is going to be a work in progress, going to go ahead and say this is put down as the first reading.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that until.
I'll make a motion. We
So,
put it
yeah,
on
if it's on
first
first reading, that'll get us
Second.
started.
We got 3 months. Yeah.
Very good.
I would make your fine not less than 200 all the way through that thing.
Okay.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous. Truck routes, let's see. An ordinance amending the code of the city of Greenwood, chapter, something weird, traffic and vehicles by creating a new article 8 entitled, this is Roman numeral, entitled Truck Routes, providing for definitions, designated routes, compliance and exceptions, providing for a penalty in an amount of not less than $200 for violation of any provisions hereof by inclusion into the code, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent or in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing for notice.
I just wanted to hear Charlotte read the whole thing. Pretty good time. So,
Long one.
so Chief got this, I think, from a couple of other cities. And
We'll refine
kind
it
of put together. And-
with our format
yeah.
for next time.
But I want to publicly state, as I was, it doesn't matter if anyway, publicly, we are not against truckers or trucking companies. What we are against, or what we are for, is protecting our investment in this newly overlaid high, although we didn't pay for it, but one day we
We don't
will.
want more truckers doing what they're
So-
supposed to do and staying on the truck route.
Yeah, and let it be known that that was always the truck route. It was just never pushed. Or the signage was not up. It is now, so.
And it's faster if you're driving a truck.
Sir?
It's faster too.
Yeah, probably so. Going through what I call Food Alley out there and all that. So, and of course, y'all know, once phase 1 is finished, which is I'm gonna say bypass. We got past. Traffic release bypass, this will all go, I mean, they would still have an opportunity to come through here, but it'll be much easier for a truck and make more sense for them to get on it out here at 96 and go across Doc Burgess's property and be out. So, and the same thing coming through, so. Anyway, thank you for that. That is the last item on the agenda. We have department reports and questions from council.
I have a question for the legal department.
Yes, sir.
Have you, last meeting, we asked you to review the bond for the curb. Did you review it and look at?
Yeah, Travis called me one afternoon and said that it was there, and now he was double making sure it was from, I think he was doing, went from 250 to 275 to 300, so, yeah. Yeah.
Just one thing that I was wanting to, was the new hydrant out there on the curb. I don't know, just from the street, I haven't really looked at it, but to me, it looks like it's low. I was wondering if it's going to have the same issue like we have over here at the Miners Memorial, that it might be, too low or whatever.
Tim's not here.
He's not here, but go ahead.
Tim's gonna raise it up. He and I have already had that
Okay.
discussion. He said he's just
It's already been
not at
addressed.
the stage to raise it up yet. He knows it needs to be done.
You want to wait till you see the finished grade before you do anything?
It is what it is until they get it finished. Anything else for department heads? If not, council forum?
I got a couple things, Mayor. The sidewalks look fantastic. Always very pleased. And
Good job.
appreciate you staying on top of all that and your team. And the second thing is, if you, and I've brought it up before over the years, but our storage area out there where our deep well is, it just,
No, on Ridge Crest.
yeah, next to our retired councilman. And so it looks, it just it needs to be cleaned up.
I think Casey is I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, I'd just like for you to assign that to somebody, and I'm not asking that the city do it. We have a contractor who lives across the street, and I'm talking about Buddy Lord.
Right.
I just,
He mentioned it too.
yeah, did he?
I think so.
Well, I was working on electrician Colin Douglas's house the other day, and I noticed that the fence rotted out, falling in
Oh, right.
on the side that faces Colin Douglas's house.
Oh.
And of course, Jim Newcomb has said something to me 2 or 3 times. I would wish you'd entertain maybe just calling Buddy and say, could you give us a price just to clean it up, repaint it, fix a few things, and put it on the agenda and let.
Go ahead.
April 20th is United Way's Day.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
And they have some volunteers committed to painting the building.
Okay, all right, fantastic.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
We would have to buy paint.
I always kind of point at Casey, and I don't know why, because I know when I was parks director, I used that building. He has a section, the PD has a section, Lieutenant Lee. How about that?
We've got section 2.
You have sections, so I don't know that the police department section is even,
So
I
there's,
don't know what's in here.
Was there something structurally wrong though that needed to be
yeah,
repaired?
and that's what, there may need to be some money come out of the budget.
Okay.
So I'm for amending the budget and getting a few things done and cleaned up. It's really hard to force other people to clean up their stuff when we've got this dilapidated mess. So it may be more than what you're asking for. So Mayor, if you have time, if you look at it, have the contractor that lives across the street maybe look at it, just give us a price. It'll be less than what we have to do the way competitive bidding.
Right.
It's not gonna be that much.
Okay.
And just have it dressed up where
We
we,
need to do
I think they just need to be painted. So, you know, the multicolored garage doors.
Yeah, that's not-
Look good, but they can
right.
just be painted.
Okay.
So,
I think they all were. Okay. Yeah, I can.
anyway, I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely.
Speaking of dilapidated places, Kermit McNabb's old house that burned
Yes.
3/4 of the way.
That,
Dangerous and unsightly.
yeah, it's been purchased by,
Let me, is that the one on Nashville?
yes.
Okay, so Aaron Meeker has bought that. He bought it in January, I believe, or maybe into December. And I have been talking with him to try to get that cleaned up. And he was in delay because he was waiting to get bids from contractors to come out there and tear it all down. His plan is to build a house there, not for himself because he's already doing that, but to either sell it or build something there. But he now has someone out there working on it, and it looks like they've got about half of it tore down, so they are in the process of cleaning it up right now.
I know a guy who got rid of that overnight.
To the same one that we sent to get the last bridge,
Yes.
Dad and I to hope.
That's right. Okay, so you're on that with code enforcement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Daniel. Keeping our town looking good.
So let me ask you a question about that, code enforcement.
Yeah.
So that is also the young lady that's here.
Kyla. So Kyla is animal control and code enforcement, and I am over her for some reason.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for some reason. And also, of course, the mayor, but yes, so she handles the code enforcement. She'll take, if the mayor and I see something out, or someone from the public calls, she checks it out, and then she sends them a notice per our ordinance. She keeps up with that really well, and then she sends out other notices, and then, we go from there, and then she's also obviously handling the animal calls.
So I would suggest if you see her out and about, and whether if you've not met her, that she was here tonight, obviously, and she's busy, truly, with these animals and code too. I affectionately nicknamed her Teeter, if you're familiar with Yellowstone. If you're not, name yourself. So she is our Tater. She's our Tater. So she may be small, but she's
mighty.
But she doesn't talk with them.
well, no, I told her that. And I told her, I said, I'm going to call you this, but I mean it in a nice way. And I said, I don't know if you talk like that way or not. She goes, I can. I said, no, it's okay.
I just
one time, when you said, you know, you send out letters and stuff, you know, I mean, I know at one time I thought we were addressed about, where we just issue a ticket, whatever, that it can go through that kind of process as opposed to.
Does she cite people like citation?
So, we actually have, ever since it's been over here, we have not cited anyone for code enforcement issues. For the most part, people do take care of it. If we stay on them, or we have gotten the mayor to sign, and that'll get them to push. We've had Mike Canby send a letter or two in the past. I've gotten with Travis on somebody who didn't take care of theirs, but then they did. The problem with citing them is that we have to have their driver's license, so you actually have to try to get them. You know, we have one right now that they have 2 days to clean up, and then we're gonna have to either figure out how we can cite them or get Travis on them, because they just will not pick up their trash on their property. I mean, it would literally take 5 minutes, but they just don't want to do it. So we've never really had to go to the point to cite anyone, thankfully. So we don't want to just write tickets, because sometimes these people need help, or there's a reason why their property looks the way it does. And so most of the time the letters work, and so we don't have to cite them.
We have found between the three of us that, talking to them, hearing their issue tends to work a little bit better.
A lot of times
It
we
may not
send
be
a
as
letter,
quick.
yeah, and you'll get, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
such and such was in the hospital, we'll get it tomorrow, and then it's done. I mean, especially with mowing season coming up, she's going to be very overloaded with those letters. And most of the time when we have a yard that's high, it's because something like that has happened. And I personally would rather send them a letter or two than write them a ticket, but that's just my
Well, I think
preference.
that's, I appreciate that, you know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, after you send, you know, 2 or 3.
Right, yeah, once
you
they
know,
pass the order of things, then,
There'll be a time when
yep.
we'll let you city attorney. And Judge Wagner has always said, send them to me, whether it be code or whether basically code.
And you have to, you can't do it just by the house, you have to have their driver's
You
license.
should have their driver's license to cite,
That's what we've been told by the judge.
and PD.
It's the way the uniform traffic does this.
The way the system is set up. Yep.
You have to slide their license and stuff, but.
And that's it. Well, we
Because he's the worst.
send a letter, and by the way, I've asked our city attorney to address that issue again, for we're starting to address, if you will, not only the Storecraft building itself, but the house over on the
Behind it.
Yeah, the lockout. So that's a
We're
hard
hearing
one.
about that for a long time.
Sir?
That's been going on.
Oh, forever. And I've visited with him on the phone a couple of times, and I'm obviously not sophisticated enough to talk to him. That's what he kind of told me one day. So I assured him I had my shoes on, but anyway, we're working on it. I believe I don't know the price we're talking about here, but I think there's an outstanding bill on that. So we did find it. Casey actually got closer than anybody, or got
Casey must be the most sophisticated
more,
one here.
he's more sophisticated, he got better results, and so the deal was made that we will hire people locally to mow that, and so I'm talking about Storecraft, well, both, I guess, and he'd be reimbursing, I think there's an outstanding one or two that we've
I
not
believe it's
gotten paid
$500.
for.
Well, it's kind of dangerous because they come in on that backside.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of talking about now, a lot of people know what we can do, yeah, it's bad. Anything else for any other department head, I'm sorry, form, sorry.
I mentioned that I really appreciate the sidewalks. Phase 2, where are we at on phase 2?
So Jerry was here tonight, as you know, and I talked to him a little bit about it again. He is preparing right-of-ways, trying to get those right-of-way easements ready so we can start that process. He won't do them, but I mean, he'll prepare them, and then we have to do like we did before, when I say we, Daniel.
No,
And Hunter's decided to take this one on because phase 2 is probably going to be easier than phase 1. I guess, with planning, and I think we all kind of talked a little bit about it. Phase 2 originally was going to go toward Walmart, not going to get all the way to Walmart, but it was going to go toward Walmart. After visiting, and phase 3 was going to come pick up at Dr. Singer's office at La Fiesta and come to Bass Street, only on the north side of the center. discussed it quite a bit, and I don't know, I've almost changed my mind since then, but it seems as though there's more foot traffic coming into town. And I know there are people that try to get to Walmart afoot, but it seems there's more coming this way. And Jeremy definitely says bang for the buck is come this way. Because that's gonna be expensive. As you know, this phase one was $600,000 to do phase one, which of course went up by like 60% because of COVID and everything. So, it's in the process. Jeremy's working on those easements and everything. Unless somebody wants us to do something different, we're gonna come to Bass Street with it on the north side. And I think there's 1 out of 15. There's only 15, right? Property owners, and only 1 is is not in Greenwood.
Oh, yeah, they're all lazy.
I'll help too, since it's kind of trail related.
Yeah, there you go.
That makes sense.
So, so we're working on it. It's being worked on.
And then, you know, you can't see him, but he's smiling real big.
I'm sure it is, yeah. I think I have enough jobs right now.
And we are preparing to apply for phase 3.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're not gonna let the heat dry on the check.
I think it's one of the best things, or the best things for our town these past few years.
Favorite mayor status?
Getting close, am I getting there?
Now they have to come back in there with those big ditches as you was talking about. They have backfilled them, and so it'll be easier for them folks to mow. Looks good to me.
Yeah, and so you know, because I asked Jeremy tonight, I knew, but I thought, don't ask, you don't know. We've got several areas that right now have steel T-post and a 2x4 for railing.
Yeah.
And that's not the finished product, by the way. It'll be a steel handrail.
And we got a company call offer to put benches out.
Yeah, or somebody's already wanting to put benches on the sidewalk, or next to the sidewalk, so. It's good stuff. Anything else?
Mayor, I do got an update, just
Yep.
to the council real quick.
Volume's over.
On the bridge at the lake.
Yes, sir.
Jacob should be finishing, concrete work is all finished, both abutments are built, they're complete, the engineers have signed off on them. Jacob's working this week, with a lot of that dirt that had to be pulled out and dried, and I don't know what to do with it, but he's walking fill back into it, compacting it, so they're going to build the pad, they're building the crane pad and the construction pad, which ultimately will become the parking lot when we're finished. And then tentatively right now, Kobe Homes, Home Direction will move the bridge from Lavaca on the 24th to the lake. And they will assemble, they'll bring it in pieces, and then it'll be fully assembled on site, and then lifted. So I don't know what exactly how long that takes to reassemble it, and when they'll pick it up and all that, but we're getting really close to having the bridge over the water.
Just the approaches, you don't have to have a big imagination to see it now, those approaches coming out. It's there. It's a photo waiting to happen. It's pretty cool.
Grandson, I can't wait to see it.
My grandkids can't wait to fish off of it.
Don't walk out there tonight, because there you go. Anything, I got a couple of things real quick. I do want to mention that we have, it's a committee, so we didn't necessarily need the council's approval, I guess, on it, but I appointed, if you will, or reappointed Dr. Vanderwatt, Francois to the Economic Development Committee. We got someone lead that committee, so I think he's going to be really good for that. He has one of his passions, I think, is the shooting range that we'll talk about later, which is.
You want an update on that?
Sure, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Just okay with you guys?
Ralph not here. Ralph obviously has helped us find contacts on that, and we now have one of our realtors and a member of the committee has identified a spot for the shooting range that fits the Game and Fish Commission's requirements. There's a second spot that's been identified that's just outside of town that physically meets their requirements. The Game and Fish Commission representative is going to come up to Greenwood, she said, that hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and physically look at these places and see if they, actually would meet the requirement, and then see what the purchase process would be. It's still a long shot, but they're contacting us now. So there's a dynamic there that now we're going back and forth. So they're serious about it. It'd be in the Greenwood area doing this city bridge, and it'd be a multi-million dollar deal. And so, and it would bring tens of thousands of people. We're excited that we've at least gotten this far with them, that we're not been, patted on the back like, redheaded stepchildren. They're actually interested in what we've got. So we're just staying top of mind right now with them and doing everything we can to build them up.
Let me know when we need to walk a ditch touch, because every time they touch something, it turns to gold. It's crazy to be involved. Thank you, Bob. I want to get you up to date. I did an interview today, reluctantly. Brett Raines showed up on my phone today, and I don't know if you're aware, but when Brett Raines calls you, it's not good news. He does not report on fun things typically. So he called me because he had heard through the grapevine about our situation a little bit, just enough to call me about our situation with the tornado sirens. So I'm on TV at 10 tonight. I was on there at 6. It's very briefly, of course, because you interview for 10 minutes, they show about 40 seconds of it. But so what I did was go on and explain to the citizens. We've done this on Facebook. It's been out there for quite a while. I think we've all helped us with that, getting information. But we are currently, not proud to say, without tornado sirens. As you know, we bought new sirens a while back. It's been a mess from the get-go. I won't mention names, but we got them up. The poles are up. Well, one of them came down, but the poles are up, somewhat leaning, so there's that. The sirens, equipment, if you will, radios, I'm not very tech savvy on this, but the radios came in with the wrong frequency, which turned out to be an old frequency that the school used, I think, a long time ago, so they were useless. So we are literally without them. The siren is up there on the poles, but they don't have the radio now. Talked to the gentleman today on the phone. He's in Little Rock, as you can imagine, trying to put back what they got a little way down there. So he's gonna, I told him, I said, I've got to have them. We can't go through this season without those. So he's gonna call me back tomorrow and tell me if they came in yet. If they did, he's supposed to be down here in a couple of days. In the meantime, PD, Stewart is on watch, if you will, with PD for sure. They have X amount of officers that if there is a warning given, they will go old school. They'll be traveling through the neighborhoods with their sirens going and the PA system. So that's where we are. So pray real hard for not severe weather tomorrow night.
Okay, let me update you.
Yes, sir.
I just sent you a text.
Okay.
My son is on the National Severe Storms Line in Norman, Oklahoma, and I get a text from him. It's not a joke. He normally tells me if there's going to be something significant in our area. He just texted me at 9:22 this evening. Tomorrow is a potentially nasty, severe weather day for you, meaning us, here at Greenwood and Fort Smith. Or more precisely, tomorrow night. There is a threat for tornadoes overnight tomorrow, perhaps not even starting until after midnight Wednesday morning. He goes on to say, the threat during the day should be fairly low, but this is not a typical severe event where the threat lessens after the sun goes down. It may not even start by then. I'll be watching. So, in other words, when he gives me a warning like that, he's telling us to be aware.
So, not very many of us here tonight, but please listen for those sirens if you know, and don't just assume they're going to an accident or pulling somebody over if they're out in the middle of the night or the wee hours in the morning.
The weather radio's on too.
You also want to mention that the police department has a QR code
Yes.
that you might go on their Facebook account.
And we have shared it on our city page as well.
Yes, on our city page too, to give you text alerts and things.
Could not be a worse time for us to be not covered with these sirens, but it just played out that way.
And going along with that, is there any repercussions with this company that we contracted with?
The repercussions, so the pole issue is definitely I'm on that, like Casey and I addressed the gentleman up there in the park the other day. I
And
think Casey saw a different side of me, but, not good. So there's that.
Tim Posey is also,
And Tim Posey is
It's
turning
all
in, it pulled up our water line, the pole fell in the park. So there's that. So, yeah, we're looking into it, I'm sure. I even use the old, I've got a city attorney, and they went, wait a minute, hold everything. And we'll talk about that. But, we haven't addressed it with the company. There's 3 companies involved. You got the company that put the pole in, you got the company that is attaching the stuff, and then you got the company that we bought the radios from. So what I've not done yet is talk to them directly, and we will. So yeah, I mean, it's put us in a bad situation, to say the least. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, we'll go after that, for sure. Questions about that? I mean, it is what it is. It's what we got.
Who was coordinating all that deliberately with the chief?
Chief got, and I'm not gonna throw anybody.
I mean, I'm not looking to blame them, just that.
Chief did, and the one that was placed at Bell Park, I was aware that we were gonna get one at Bell Park. I never, knew exactly where it was, and obviously, if I'd known, that would not have been it. I mean, for crying out loud, if that had fallen during peak park hours,
Bunch of little kids.
oh my gosh, it's a 60-foot pole that came tumbling down, so it would have been horrific, to say the least. But yeah, originally the chief was, and I did too, we worked together, we looked at a map, and we got better, we got more coverage, we got updated, high-tech software, you know, it opened, they come on automatically when they get here.
We were communicating with these companies, we had agreements and all those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering,
To AC's point, we've got some.
Yeah. And we're not, I made it real clear, we're not paying for relocation. Remember the pole that I was apologizing to, and we'll have to relocate it and pay for it?
Relocated itself.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I mean, since I can't pulled up our water line, I didn't know if they implemented the 811 system, you know, to.
So yeah, Tim's not here, so they did it, they actually did a one call. Now what as this gets further into it, it looks as though their one call was done, what did he say today? In January. They didn't put the pole in until February. You have 10 days, right? Somebody that knows time, those calls. You gotta do that in 10 days. If you don't, you gotta do another one. So the excuses the gentleman gave me when we were standing there, none of it was, I just kept looking at him. I said, you talk all day long. Should this have fallen? I put one in that deep. It wasn't deep enough, just all kinds of stuff. So to your point, our line was not necessarily, I think there's a little bit of us not marking the line or something, or maybe.
I believe it was marked, and then he waited so long the paint disappeared, and then he came back, put the pole in.
Gotcha.
When they came to put the pole in, it's nothing but rock up there, so they were looking for a place they could go. And the only place is in a ditch that's already been dug, which is right next to the water line.
It literally was in the ditch line, this far from the pavement, between the gazebo, if you know, and the playground. Again, it just gives me chills to think if that had fallen. Now, it fell parallel with the road, which is okay, I guess, but it didn't matter. Nobody was there, the headlamps.
We saw a guy walking his dog
Yeah.
probably an hour after that thing fell.
Yeah.
It would have smashed him, it would have destroyed him.
He looked at us and he goes, can I help? I'm like, I wish. I don't know what we're gonna do. So, yeah, I think we've got all kinds of things. They're gonna be built, whether we may have, we'll see how it goes.
We've got 4 minutes to get home and see you on TV.
Okay, so the other thing is, please remember in your prayers or your thoughts or whatever you do, Little Rock, Wynn, Jacksonville, all those places. I don't know what the death toll is now. 5, but the destruction is incredible. As you know, we've had that here before, years and years ago, but keep those folks in your prayers, and that's all I've got.
I just have one more reminder, Tom, when is the financial review?
Monday night, Monday night the 10th at 6.
At 6.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, say, thank you very much. Everybody.